They my bestie. She's my bestie. That's my bestie. Your pair of eyes had me paralyzed. Toxic nigga, but you made me to a better guy. Smoke, but with you on forever, ever. I can watch you all day, girl, like you televised. You think like this nigga, they ain't never lied. I left the bitches alone, I had to pick a side. Look in your eyes, girl, you were hypnotized. Of course, it was your breasts, hips, and them damn thighs. Close my eyes, I'm still mesmerized. Get mad at my bestie, I tried. That's my bestie, my pretty.
I heard she's the one, she's got it going on. That's my pretty eyes, baby. Yeah, yeah. She don't take no mess. My bestie is the best. That's my pretty eyes, baby. Yeah, yeah. I heard she's the one, she's got it going on. That's my pretty eyes, baby. Yeah, yeah. She don't take no mess. My bestie is the best. That's my pretty eyes, baby. Yeah, yeah. Oh.
Hey, room shaker. Where the hell you been? I haven't got any notifications from you. You got a man? A new one? A new one for a second? Anyways, what's up? So I'm going to do day 9 of the Karen Read retrial rewatch. Oh, that's what to say. Anyways, a little background. Karen Read is accused of running over her boyfriend backwards 22 miles an hour in a snowstorm. And the only thing she busted on her car was a taillight. And she didn't end up in the middle of the lawn or in the house for that matter. And he ended up with some blunt force trauma, a laceration on his nose and above his eye, 2 black eyes, and a long laceration in the back. Plus, he had some abrasions or lacerations, bite marks, something typical, not from a motor vehicle accident. He didn't have any injuries from the neck down other than the arm. So he was found on another cop's lawn, and they never searched the cop's lawn. They didn't find taillight pieces that morning when they found him. They only found a glass and some droplets of blood that they used a leaf blower and red solo cups to collect, because those are great crime collecting tools. And then when they had 1.5 feet of snow, they found a tennis shoe, a hat. And yeah, this case is just BS. So anyways, today is like when we start really, really getting good. Before we were getting good. But today we're going to start hearing after the sister-in-law, we're going to start hearing from the homeowners. So, yeah, that should be interesting. And then we'll hear from other parties that may or may not have been there. They say they haven't been there. But, when you allow screenshots from, said people instead of taking their phone and extracting them like normal, you don't know what to believe. So, anyways, all right. Let's get into it, baby. Okay. And I can shut up. Oh, I'm already sharing. What am I doing? Let me go down here. Let me put myself down here. There we go. So please like, share, comment, all that great stuff. Tell me I'm a loser. I don't give it. Because I don't, I'm not going with the Commonwealth. I'm sorry, they haven't proved their case. The minute I heard leaf blowers and red solo cups, it was not guilty for me. And they never made their way back to a guilty. Never made their way to a guilty. So, Yeah, let's get started. Also, the lead investigator, he will be a few more days down the line. However, he was fired, dishonorably discharged from his job because of the bias he held against Karen Read and the text messages and just telling his friends about it and stuff. So he definitely is a biased person. It shows. I mean, the bias has already been shown, but it gets more and more into depth as we go. Okay, did I get this on 1.25 or 1?
You are unmuted.
Okay, I will go to 1.25 when after she gets done with her BS as she goes through.
Hear ye. All parties having anything to do before the Honorable First.
Also, anything to do. Parties having anything to do before the Honorable First Circuit Superior Court Judge Cannoni. Oh, okay. Anyways, all right. So we're gonna finish Julie Albert's testimony. That's the sister-in-law to the homeowner. His brother is her husband. That's the select board hearing, and her brother-in-law is the cop that John O'Keefe was found deceased on. His lawn. So let's get into it.
First Justice Beverly Cannoni, now sitting in the Dedham Superior Court within for the County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth and this good court. Thank you. You may be seated. Good morning, Your Honor.
Morning.
You need to say.
All right. Good morning again, counsel. Good morning again, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. Happy Friday. I appreciate you all being here.
Oh, yeah, it's Friday for you guys too. Yay.
So we made you wait, but in the long run, it's speed things up and make things almost smooth. So we appreciate
How come we didn't get a watch sidebar?
Have you all been able to follow the instruction and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left us today? Yes. Everyone said yes or not affirmatively. Were you all able to follow the instruction and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Yes. Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left yesterday? No. One thing I did want to say to you folks is if you can't hear a witness or a lawyer or you can't see something, I don't know that unless you raise your hand. So if you raise your hand, the court officers don't have the power to say to the witness, please answer that again and speak louder. But I do. So if you raise your hand, court officer will come over and let me know, and we can make sure that happens. All right. So I remind counsel to keep their voices up, and you've been doing a great job of moving out of the way of the jurors toward the end there. So please continue to do so. All right. Is Ms. Albert here?
Let's go. That's right. Okay, I better slow this down because boy, oh boy, it's gonna get good.
Thank you.
You solemnly swear the evidence given before the jury in the case now hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, you may.
Okay, I'm just going to remind you, keep your voice up, please, Ms. Albert, okay? All right, Ms. Giannetti?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you for coming through, Doctor. I appreciate it. Come on.
Good morning, Ms. Albert.
Good morning.
Ma'am, you will recall yesterday, I broached the topic with you of how often you and Courtney Proctor speak to each other over the phone.
Good to
Recall
see
that
you
line of
too.
questioning?
Yes.
And when I asked you
Let me
to
move
describe the frequency of those phone calls, I didn't put any words in your mouth, did I? I didn't suggest how frequently they were. You came up with the word.
Wait. Whoa. Stop. Pause. Hold on a second. I didn't put stop share screen, you jerk face. Okay. That was so rude. That was so rude of it. No, I want to enter full screen. Yeah, I didn't do any of that dumb stuff. Okay, no. Okay.
Courtney Proctor, you could have chosen any word in the English language to answer that question, correct?
Correct.
What was the word that you chose?
Not often. I don't remember,
How about
honestly.
rarely?
Rarely. Yes.
That was your word, correct?
It could have been. I don't
We're
really
gonna get
recall.
a
I don't recall.
You
You're
don't recall
gonna get a
telling this
piece.
jury yesterday that when I asked you about how often you spoke to Courtney Proctor by phone, you said, well, rarely.
I don't remember.
What is your definition of rarely?
Not daily. Not daily. Not.
Rarely would
Yes.
be like you
Once
don't
in a
talk
blue
to her at
moon?
all very
No.
much. Lady, no.
Rarely doesn't mean to you 67 phone conversations within a 7-month period, does it?
We can go eat.
A 67
Believe him alone.
time period in how many, 8 months?
In about 7 months, 67 times.
It's not a lot. I wouldn't think it's a lot in 7 months.
3 times in one day? Is that rarely?
No, but I'm not.
That's like
That wasn't every
frequently.
day. I would.
Okay, well, when you left the stand yesterday, did you log into your account or check any gold bills to confirm those 67 calls?
No, I did not.
Did you speak to Mr. Lally about those 67 calls after we broke yesterday and before you took the stand today?
I don't believe so. No.
Did you call Courtney Proctor in one of those rare occasions? Yesterday?
No, I did not.
This morning?
I did
guess
not.
so. In her world.
I'm curious as to whether or not you had actually called her those 67 times.
Objection.
Sustained.
See, you wouldn't have to lie like something as stupid as that if it was innocent. But see, because she's trying to cover up for whoever she's trying to cover up for, I don't know. Maybe her son. I'm not. It's alleged. I don't know. Or her brother-in-law. Maybe she's covering for her brother-in-law or his friend Brian Higgins. You know, because those are the 3 that people are saying may have possibly wanted to fight John. So maybe, just maybe, she's covering up for somebody. Because I'm going to tell you, if you ain't got nothing to hide, lying something about something as stupid as this is crazy.
In any case, regarding all of those 67 phone calls from February 1st until September 6th, do you maintain
They should have a
that
long time
during
ago.
none of those calls or any portion of those calls did you and Courtney Proctor discuss the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe?
And I don't think she's allowed to plead the fifth since she did testify in a grand jury trial. So I don't think she's allowed to. And I'm not sure. I would have to look it up. But I think that's the way it is. Like if you were a witness in the grand jury, you should be a witness in the case. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had a case. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Let me look it up while she's testifying.
I do not remember.
Do you deny discussing that investigation?
I don't deny, but I do not remember.
All right. Well, you admitted yesterday, after having seen the records, that you spoke with Michael Proctor's sister for 12 minutes on February 1st of 2022. Do you recall that?
I don't recall the conversation. No, I don't. It was a long time ago.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. Finish your answer.
I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. I just don't remember.
Okay. But my question is, after seeing the records, you saw the phone call for over 12 minutes, correct?
Correct.
And you also remember that was the very day that the police arrested Karen Read for this case, correct?
Correct.
The arrest of Karen Read on February 1st was pretty big news in Massachusetts, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You had seen that arrest all over the news, correct?
Correct.
So you certainly, given the day and the fact that it was February 1st and my client was arrested that day and you're talking to the lead investigator's sister, the subject of Karen Read's arrest had to have come up, right?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
You certainly mentioned my client's arrest with Courtney Proctor on the very day that she was arrested and you were talking to Courtney, correct?
Correct.
Now, when we broke for the day yesterday, I had also asked you about the 3 phone calls that you had with Michael Proctor's sister on the morning of February 2nd when my client was arraigned, correct?
Correct.
And you recall that her arraignment was televised publicly, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
You saw her on the news being arraigned, correct?
Correct.
And one of those phone calls after, well, strike that. With regard to the 3 phone calls before the arraignment, you knew at that time that my client had been arrested the day before, correct?
Correct.
And you knew she would be arraigned in court that morning, correct?
Correct.
Certainly, when you were talking to Michael Proctor's sister on February 2nd, before her 9 o'clock arraignment, you were discussing the 9 o'clock arraignment, correct?
Can you repeat the end of that, please?
Sure. On February 2nd, the day that my client was scheduled to be arraigned in Stoughton District Court, we're talking about the 3 phone calls that you made to Michael Proctor's sister before that arraignment.
Okay, so I don't know if if any of them asked that they plead the fifth or they get immunity, because they all have lawyers, mind you. But so it's not giving me a clear answer. I tried, it's just not giving me a clear answer. So I don't know. It's just, but I truly I don't believe you can do that. I don't think a judge will grant you immunity or anything like that if you were a keen witness in a thing. Well, I don't know if she has a lawyer. I know that her brother-in-law has one, her son had one, Brian Higgins has one, and her sister, or well, her friend Jen McCabe that keeps popping up, you know. I know that those 4 have lawyers, but I'm not sure about her and her husband. I'm not sure about that. But in the same sense, you know, whoever's their lawyer, maybe they didn't ask, you know, like dummies. But they probably figure, well, you're supposed to be a key witness in the testimony. There's no way you could plead the fifth, because otherwise we wouldn't have a case, you know.
Very day. And my question is, certainly you were discussing the fact that she was about to be arraigned, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently, Mr.
Did the subject of Karen Read's arraignment come up in any of those 3 calls on February 2nd, the day she was going to be arraigned, before her arraignment?
I don't remember exactly.
What about the
And the day that John
27-minute
died.
phone call that you had with Courtney Proctor at
Or the day that
10:58
John's
a.m.
funeral.
that same day after my client was arraigned in court? Did you discuss the arraignment that had just happened?
I do not remember.
Of course you're saying I don't remember.
You were no longer babysitting for Courtney Proctor's kids, correct?
I wasn't babysitting regularly like I was before.
So is it your testimony that you
Stammering
happened to
in
be
your
talking
voice,
about
lady.
babysitting on February 2nd for 27 minutes, the same day that my client was arraigned in Stoughton District Court?
I don't remember what I was talking about. It could have been about the kids. It could have been about anything. I don't remember.
Girl,
Sure. And
stop.
certainly it could have been about the publicly televised arraignment that had just occurred, correct?
Objection.
So I'll allow this and then let's move away from this, okay? Can
It-
you answer that?
Yes, it could have been. Yes.
Did you tell Courtney Proctor during any of these 67 phone calls that you were a witness in her brother's case?
I don't remember.
Okay.
girl, you
Ms.
know
Ellis,
you
were at the
was. That's why
waterfall
you're
on the night
saying
of
I don't
January
recall.
28th.
And I saying I don't recall is the
Correct?
same as
Yes.
pleading the fifth. So yeah. So I guess she's working around it. I guess they told her, hey, you know, you know, if you know, they ask you a question and it's incriminating to you, just say I don't remember. But the thing is they have all this grand jury testimony. They have the federal grand jury testimony of a lot of these people. They also have this first trial. So I can only imagine the second trial. Oh, it's going to be impeachments galore. I freaking love it.
Yes.
And you also went to 34 Fairview on the morning of January 29th.
Yes.
Yet, as of the date of these phone calls that we've discussed so far, the February 1st and the February 2nd, multiple phone calls, Trooper Proctor still had not interviewed you, correct?
Correct.
You were finally interviewed by Trooper Proctor on
And she-
February 10th, about 13 days.
The sad part is she's only a witness. She wasn't there when it happened. Like, she wasn't there. She went to the bar with them, of course, but she left early. So, and then the next morning she went there to quote unquote ritual shit, taking her nephew some donuts or whatever, some Dunkin' Donuts. Anyways, I mean, really, like, she really has nothing to lie about. I mean, Well, okay, he's gonna get into what she has to lie about, and we'll get there. But she's not like a key factor in this case. In all honesty, except for showing the biasness and that she's covering for somebody. Yeah, so she's accessory after the fact. You damn right. But Jesus Louise.
After John O'Keefe was found dead on Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
Correct.
Don't
And
you
you
say
told Courtney
objection,
Proctor
fuckface.
that you were nervous to speak to her brother, Trooper Proctor, about this case. Do you remember that?
I do not remember those exact words now.
All right. But you were nervous to speak to him, correct?
Of course, I was nervous in general for a police interview. I mean, I don't know someone who wouldn't be.
Were you worried that one of Trooper Proctor's
Why are you
colleagues
nervous,
might ask
though,
to
if you
speak to your
weren't
son,
there?
Colin,
Hello?
about what had happened on the 28th and the 29th?
Objection.
Was I nervous they would ask my son?
Yeah, were you nervous that one of the investigators in this case might approach your son to ask him about his whereabouts?
No.
All right.
Yeah, you were.
In any case, you were interviewed at 5:30 p.m. on February 10th, correct?
Correct.
Where did that interview take place?
At my home in Canton.
Who was present for that interview?
Why not at the police department?
Me, my husband, Trooper Proctor, and Trooper Bukaki.
Bukaki?
Michael Proctor agreed to interview you and your husband together, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You and your husband were interviewed together, correct?
Correct.
Wow,
Did either
we're
of
not
these
even
troopers,
supposed to be
including
interviewed
Michael
together.
Proctor,
And where's the
suggest that maybe the two of you should
recording?
be separately interviewed?
I don't recall.
When
I don't
did the
remember.
interview take place within your home?
In my family room?
Were you sitting on couches?
Yes.
You're comfortable?
Yes.
You were not in a police interrogation room, correct?
No, I was not.
And it wasn't particularly lengthy, correct?
What do you define lengthily? I don't recall. I don't remember how long it was exactly.
It didn't go into the evening, correct?
No.
And then Michael Proctor and the other trooper left, correct?
Correct.
Then at 6:17 p.m. that same night, shortly after you had been interviewed, you called Michael Proctor's personal cell phone number, correct?
I don't remember.
Let me have a moment.
Okay.
You didn't bring your cheaters today. Oh, you did? Good. Okay. May I approach Sharon?
Yes.
This is the same document.
Why are you
I'm going to
calling
hand
the
you
lead
one
investigator's
document.
phone?
There's an orange sticky on it that you can ignore.
Okay.
But right above the orange sticky, there's a date of February 10th. That's what I'm directing your attention to. If you could
You're
look
not
at those
friends with
two
him, you're
phone
friends
calls.
with your sister.
ma'am, and
Why
look up
are
at
you
me when
calling
you're
him?
done. If I may approach.
Yes.
Did that refresh your memory about those two phone calls on February 10th?
I mean, I just read them, but I don't remember.
Okay. You called Trooper Proctor at 6:17 p.m. and it appears to be a 5-second phone call. Did you see that?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Do you recall that Trooper Proctor called you back that same day at 6:21 p.m. and that you spoke for about 4 minutes?
Objection, Your Honor.
Do you deny speaking to Trooper Proctor for 4 minutes when he called you from his personal cell phone on February 10th of 2022 after you had been interviewed that day?
No, I don't deny it, but I don't remember it.
When did you get his personal cell phone number?
Don't remember.
Years ago?
I'm sure. Yes.
Because you've known that family for a long time.
Yes, I have.
And as you testify here today, you can't remember what that phone call would have been about, correct?
No, I do not remember.
Okay, I'd like to contrast your relationship with Karen Read versus your relationships with Jennifer McCabe and Courtney Proctor. You would agree with me, and I think you testified yesterday that Jennifer McCabe is one of your best friends.
Correct.
And you call her Jen, correct?
Yes.
And Courtney Proctor was also one of your best friends, correct?
She's not one of my best friends. No, she's a good friend. She's not one of my best friends. No, she's my sister's best friend.
Gotcha. Okay, so your sister,
My
Jill,
sister Jillian. Yes.
Jillian, is best friends with Courtney Proctor, and you're close friends with her, but not best friends.
Correct.
But But you really only knew Karen Read as John O'Keefe's girlfriend, correct?
Correct.
She was just an acquaintance of yours.
Yes.
There are no photos of you in a hot tub together, right? You and Karen Read?
No.
There are no photos of you with your arms around each other at the beach, correct?
No.
You've never been to a
I
baby
thought I
shower
had-
with Karen Read, correct?
Hold on.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay. She is the sister-in-law to the homeowner that the lady that supposedly ran her boyfriend over on his lawn. She is a homeowner, but they're exposing her for knowing the lead investigator in this case family for a long time, showing the bias of why maybe they didn't, check other avenues rather than just pin it on her type deal. So yeah.
Sustain.
You didn't have any contact with Karen Read while you were growing up, correct?
No.
Karen
Well, it
Read
was
was
eating
definitely
crackers.
not from Canton, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow this and then you can move on.
No, she was not.
No, one more question. She was an outsider, correct, to Canton?
She didn't live in Canton.
But after she started dating John, you would see her driving in and out of the street, correct?
Yes.
You'd see her taking groceries in, correct?
Yes.
Because you were neighbors with John.
Yes.
And it was the fact that you'd see her around, taking groceries in and out of the house and being
Thanks
outside
for
with
coming back.
kids
Scratch it off.
that led you to
Appreciate
believe
that.
that she was not only connected to John, but also to his house on Meadows Ave, correct?
Yes.
And you would see her interacting with the kids outside, correct?
Yes.
I'm doing what
She
the
would be
hell.
participating in family-type activities with the kids outside?
Yes.
And you'd see her enough that you assumed that she was living there, correct?
Yes.
And I believe you stated that you had known her or seen her for maybe about a year and a half or so. Is that a good estimate?
Yes.
And in all the time that you saw her in the neighborhood or had any contact with her and John, you never saw the two of them fight or argue, correct?
No.
You never heard them fight or argue,
See, that's
correct?
where this,
No.
like,
And you had been out with
Then-
them.
how are they going to prove that she deliberately did it? How are they going to prove that? When none of their witnesses are saying they were fighting that night or there was an argument that night or they seen them get fight. I mean, and when they showed the text messages between them, trying to say like she did it, or the night that she dropped him off, she was pissed because you wanted me to come hang out with you and you fucking, you ghost me, motherfucker, Here I am with your niece and you're off, gallivanting with who the fuck knows who, drunk as fuck. I mean, she sounded really shit-faced when she was making the calls the night before, but nothing led to me saying, oh, she deliberately did it. And all the evidence shows me that there ain't no way he was hit by a car going that fast backwards. It would have ended up in the middle of the lawn or in the house, period. He looked like and I've seen the autopsy photos, even though, I'm not supposed to, but I've seen them. And it doesn't look like it looks like he was in a fight. It really does.
In a group setting a handful of times, correct?
Just a couple of times.
And during those times, they always appeared to get along, correct?
Yes.
And you knew of no problems in their relationship, correct?
No.
And you were particularly impressed with the time Karen spent with John's adopted children.
Objection.
Were you?
Can you repeat that once more, please?
You were impressed with the amount of time that Karen spent with John's children.
I didn't know the exact really amount of time. She was there a lot. Yes, she was. So yes, I would assume that she spent a lot of time with them. Yes.
Oh,
Now,
lady.
on Friday,
Yeah.
January 28th, you had plans with your sister-in-law, Nicole, correct?
Yes.
You are close with Nicole.
Yes, I am.
You picked her up at her home in your car.
Yes.
You drove her to the waterfall, correct?
Oh,
Correct.
but she doesn't
And the
even
two of you
say
went to
you're
dinner
pretty
there?
close.
Yes.
She just says
Your
you're
husband
her
Chris
sister-in-law.
came later.
Yes.
Marriage.
Brian Higgins came later.
Yes.
And you knew Brian Higgins, correct?
Yes.
Sustain, I'm going to stop you for 1
Yes.
second.
No, the other one tries to lead her. He's trying to sink her. He's trying to sink
No, thank you,
her.
Ron. I believe you testified that you knew Brian Higgins at that time, correct?
Yes,
And how did you know him?
he is a friend of my brother-in-law.
And your brother-in-law would be Brian Albert, correct?
Yes.
And by the way, when I just asked you that question about how you knew Brian Higgins and what his relationship was to Brian Albert,
Yeah, because when she says, I don't know, he doesn't give up. He doesn't give up until she answers the fucking question because she wants to try to like seem like, oh, my family's innocent. You guys are wrongfully accusing my family and da 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 da. But yet you have a relationship with the lead investigator's family. His mom calls you guys their second family. The lead investigator didn't recuse himself, although he should, to make sure that it was a proper investigation on the police officer's death. That means searching the fucking house and everybody inside it. I mean, the lead investigator's as dumb as a box of rocks, because for him to submit DNA tests because of the different DNAs found on the clothing of the officer, why not get DNA from everybody in that house and you'd solve the fucking case? Oh, that's right, because you're trying to protect the living cops and your second family rather than, getting him real justice.
hesitate to say that they were friends, correct?
Correct.
It was very clear that they were friends, correct?
Correct.
In fact, the two of them arrived at the bar together, correct?
Yes.
And it didn't surprise you to see the two of them together, correct?
No.
Karen and John came sometime after that,
I believe shortly after that. Yes.
and they walked over to your table,
Yes.
and then John kind of came up from behind you and sort of in a joking way.
Matter of fact, this case is as bad as OJ. I said that the other day. This case before anybody else, and weird how Court TV said that. But anyways, maybe they're watching me. Just kidding. But yeah, this has the makings of OJ case. We know that he lost because of the police investigation. It wasn't done very well. It was sloppy, and you had the lead investigator that was a racist pig. So yeah, but this case, the OJ case, they just were sloppy at their investigation. No chain of custody, no nothing like that. And even though they had the evidence to prove he did it, although he was acquitted. However, her, on the other hand, all they have is these 45 pieces of taillight that weren't found that morning. They were found, what was it? 2 pieces of red taillight pieces were found that night in 1.5 feet of snow, but not in right when they took out the leaf blower with the red Solo cups. They don't have a chain of custody. They waited 2 weeks to log in his clothes, saying, oh, well, they were all wet, so we were waiting for them to dry. No, you were waiting so you could bust out that tail light and put it in the clothes so you can get little particles to say that tail light pieces were embedded in it. Like it's sloppy all the way around. And then this is the mother of a young boy that used to go on his lawn. Like we went through that yesterday. And put beer cans, told him to F off to his face. And he was a fighter. I mean, he's a hockey player. Of course he got some fight in him. And he likes to drink underage and shit. So he probably was there, and he looks up to his big brother cop. I mean, his dad's big brother cop freaking uncle. And, his uncle probably egged it on being drunk and shit because he was egging on the other ATF agent that was having text messages, but nothing, came of it with Karen Read like 2 weeks before. It's just a whole shit show. No chain of custody. When they put the tail light together, the only thing that was missing was like a little piece, and that's when she backed. And what makes it worse is she cracked her tail light the morning that she went to go look for him. And they hurried up. They confiscated her car, confiscated her phone, hurried up and fucking busted her tail light and planted it. You can't tell me they didn't. Why they did it, I'll never know, you know? But if the shoe was on the other foot and her brother-in-law was sitting there investigating the case and the lead investigator was involved, you think he would run him a solid? Probably not. He wouldn't put his badge on the line if he wasn't ready to retire. There ain't no fucking way. I mean, her brother-in-law got to retire, so he got his pension and everything. But the one that, you know, lost his job doesn't get no pension, nothing. You know, it's just sad. I mean, who rehomes their house, their phone, their dog, all right after this happens? A person that's guilty. So the only one I'm looking at right now is the two males I know for sure was in that house that night. That was the ATF agent that Karen ghosted 2 weeks before, and that is her brother-in-law. And, you know, there is some data that backs up her son being there. I mean, they left him out of the police report for fucking like ever. For a year and a half. I think they left him out of the police report for a year and a half. And then he brought in screenshots. Like, no, you don't bring in screenshots because anybody can doctor anything. You know, they let him bring in screenshots of, you know, his hand, you know, the hand that day, supposedly. It looks like it's Photoshop, but I'm really skeptical about this case, period. and all that, like, seriously, just if they really want to find who's really responsible and let that family get some justice and quit, you know, putting daggers on Karen, you know, I mean, it doesn't look good. And put the real killers behind bars. I mean, it's simple. No wonder people in Massachusetts don't trust the police, because it's not just Canton police officers, it's their MSP officers. Then they have other officers in different districts that are pulling the same shit. It's just sickening.
Way dug his finger into your shoulder.
Correct. Yes.
And essentially said, you know, what's up, and that was about it. And he went on. Correct.
He said, "What's up?" and he made a joke.
Hey, Amanda.
And the joke was, given the fact that you and your husband moved from the neighborhood, they decided to hold a block party.
Yes.
And John was the same jokester.
I just love true crime, and I like to see real justice. I don't like how prosecutors can just pin a crime on you, overcharge you even. Just so you'll you know, take the wonky little plea deal for whatever, for like something stupid, just so they can get a conviction. And they never get barred or anything. They get immunity, and that's not fair. It's not freaking fair at all. And what saddens me is this type of lawyering that he's doing right now, you won't get from a public defender. I mean, at most, they just want to see you take the plea deal. They don't care if you're innocent or guilty. They're just there for a paycheck.
He always was, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And you had some contact with Karen while you were at the bar before you had to leave because of the migraine, correct?
Correct.
And she was just very bubbly that night, correct?
Correct.
That's just her personality as far as you could see, correct?
As far as I knew, yes.
You know, you didn't know her that well, but that's how she always was, correct?
Correct.
And you left the waterfall at around 11 o'clock, your best memory?
A little after 11.
And it was a particularly bad migraine that night?
Yes.
and the loud music didn't.
Yeah, do better, lawyers. Like, give defendants a real do some real defending of your clients. Like, I mean, I would look at a case, and if it looks like, hey, dude, there ain't no way we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you're not guilty, I wouldn't do that. Like, I wouldn't care how poor, rich they were. It's just sad because, I mean, she had the money to get those top lawyers. She can't keep them. I mean, basically, from what I hear, they might be doing their job for free this time because she's got $5 million defense. She had to sell her house. She had to sell everything just to get defended. I mean, to go up against this corruption, because a lot public defenders don't want to take cases like this. But say it was somebody that couldn't afford it.
Help you out.
Not at all.
And you drove home?
Yes.
Now, when you got home, your son Colin was not there, correct?
Correct.
They ain't
He
gonna
was not
do
out with you at the waterfall.
Correct.
He was out that night, correct?
Yes.
And
Tell the
you
fucking
knew
DA
that
to
he
stop
stops by your
fucking
sister-in-law
doing
Nicole's
that,
house
people.
quite a bit, correct?
Yes.
He's very close to Nicole and Brian's kids, correct?
Correct.
He's also very, very close to his aunt.
I mean, okay. I swear I'm going to stopping this. But even prosecutors, they don't have to take cases. They can say, oh, well, there's no way I can prove this. Or maybe he's guilty of this thing. So, maybe that, but not this. They know what they could prove and what they can't. They need to do better. And defense attorneys, quit being so greedy.
Uncle, Brian Albert and Nicole Albert, correct?
Correct.
So you would have gotten home maybe shortly after 11:10 p.m. approximately?
Around 11. Yep. Around that.
And that was when you entered an empty house, correct?
My son Dylan was home.
Oh, Dylan was home.
Yes.
But Colin was not.
He was not.
And Colin did not come home at 11:30, correct?
Correct.
He did not come home at 11:45, correct?
Correct.
And when the clock turned midnight, he still wasn't home, correct?
Correct.
Now,
Wow. Wow. I didn't realize he got her to fucking say that. She said he got home around, they said that he got home around 11:10 or 12. Let's see, 12. Oh, no, he's saying 11. Okay, 12, midnight. Yeah, they're saying he got home at like 12:10 or something, 12:20, something like that. Anyways, that's what they're saying. But her son didn't even get home until 12:30. And he came in after that. So there's no way that he could have got there at 12:20.
Your husband, Chris, came home, correct?
Yes.
You testified on direct examination that Chris came home at 12:10 a.m. on January 29th.
That's what time I believe he did. Yes.
Okay. That
Well, you're wrong.
12:10 a.m. time, did you discuss that precise time with anybody prior to taking the stand yesterday?
No.
Was that coordinated with anybody such that your husband and you gave the same time at 12:10 a.m.?
No.
She's gonna snap at it.
With the court's permission, I'd like to play the waterfall delay video. That portion.
Every time they get caught with something, fucking that siren goes off.
Then they just have a moment, Your Honor.
Come on, video guy.
I'm going to allow my colleagues some time to find this, and I'll move on with my questioning in the meantime. We can have the lights on again. Now, I believe you've testified that the waterfall is very close to D&E Pizza, correct?
Correct.
But your house on Maple Street is about a half mile away from the waterfall. Would you agree with that?
About that. Yes. Maybe a little less, but about that.
All right. Would you agree it's a 7 or 8 minute walk home from the waterfall if you're walking? I realize you were driving, but if somebody were walking, it would be about 7 or 8 minutes?
Maybe a minute or two less.
Okay. So you would say 6 or 7 minutes would be a better estimate to cover that half mile?
Depends on how fast you walk, yes.
You're
was
just trying to,
snowing that night,
stand
Correct.
We
The
get it.
ground was a little bit slippery.
Because you know you're going to get
Yes.
caught in a lie. She knows.
If I may
Are you serious? I think she got a face of a horse, but that's besides the point.
If I could have the lights dimmed again. This is the exhibit I'd like to show you, ma'am.
Her face is too
And
long.
if you pause 1 second. Do you recognize what's
Got a
depicted in
long
that
face.
video? Does that appear to be the waterfall?
Yes.
Oh, you mean the
And you see the
defendant?
top-
Are you talking about the defendant or are you talking about the witness? Which one? The defendant is pretty. And she's crazy when she's drunk. Like, but not that crazy. These motherfuckers that are lying on her are crazy.
Do you see the time, 12:13 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay, if you can run that, Mr. Bates.
Oh, she probably won't like the backwards hug that he just gave that other girl. Oh.
All right, can you pause it there? I am going to direct your, do you see where it says CH3?
Yes.
And you see the timestamp
Well,
up
let
top,
me-
correct?
Yes.
Move you
Between
up.
those two markers on the video, you're going to see somebody walking by. I'd ask you to pay attention for the next, 6 seconds or so.
The same person that gave that girl a backwards hug. That was very inappropriate.
Stop. Do you recognize that person?
Yes, I believe it's my husband.
Oh,
You can run that?
well, he left it
Okay.
to.
Would you agree with me that your husband left the waterfall at about 12:13 and 46 seconds?
Well, yes. I mean, that's what it says on the screen.
So it was closer to 2:14 than to 2:10. Would you agree with that?
12:14?
Yeah,
Two-
she's pretty.
You know what? You're right.
She is pretty.
12:14 then 12:10.
Yes, that's what I'm seeing.
Thank you. So if he's leaving at around 12:14, and by your testimony, it would have taken him he was walking home. You knew that, correct?
So how was
Yes.
your
He didn't
son
have a
home
car
at
that
12?
He did not.
And if it took him 6 or 7 minutes to get home, and by the way, let me strike that question. You had said it takes 6 or 7 minutes. Did you
Ruh-roh.
factor in
Ruh-roh.
the fact
Ruh-roh,
of the
Ellie.
weather that night
Ruh-roh.
for your estimate about a 6 or 7 minute walk?
Objection.
Can you answer that question? Is that what you said?
Yes, I didn't factor in the. I don't know.
All right, so your testimony.
Now you're gonna
you
go to
know
I
it
don't
would have
know.
taken him a little bit longer, or anybody.
Anybody, everyone walks at a different pace.
Right,
Oh
but whatever
my
pace they
girl.
walk at,
Mhm.
Now you
given
wanna-
what you saw of the weather that night, is it your testimony that maybe it would have taken a little bit longer than the estimate? Because
It
of the
could
weather?
have.
Okay.
I
But
don't
in
know.
any case, let's leave it at 6 or 7 minutes. That puts your husband coming home at around 12:20 or 12:21,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
All right. And that 12:10
Yeah, they're trying to. So they said that her son's part of the part of the other allegations, the defense's, the third party culprit saying that they had something to do with John's death and not Karen, that they, got in a fight with him. Her son was supposed to be home at 12:10, but her husband was seen at the bar at 12:13, almost 12:14 when he walked out. So, and it was about 10-15 minutes when he was asleep and when his son came home. So there ain't no fudging way that he was home at 12:10.
estimate that you had, you made that estimate before having the benefit of the video, correct?
Correct.
Now, where were you within the house when your husband came home?
Shush.
In my room,
Bedroom?
upstairs in my bedroom.
All right, and you share a bedroom with your husband.
Yes.
And when was the first time that you saw him within the house?
He came up to the bedroom.
Okay, so you were in the bedroom and you see him appear in the bedroom.
Correct.
Did you hear the door open way down on the first floor?
Yes.
Okay. And it would have taken him maybe about a minute to get upstairs. It wasn't
Wait,
very
you
long?
can hear. Hold on.
It wouldn't be very long, no.
Okay. And
You
when
got a 3-story house. You heard him. I don't know if Massachusetts have downstairs or basements. They have basements, and okay, I can understand that. But you have a 3-story townhome or condo or whatever the fuck you call it. You can hear it. Wow, you got some good ears, lady.
he got upstairs, you noticed that he was in wet clothing, correct?
Yes.
He appeared to be cold.
Yes.
And he got undressed, correct?
Yes.
Did he brush his teeth before bed?
I think he got right into bed.
Okay, so you didn't see him brush his teeth or wash up.
No.
And were you in the bed when he came into the bed to go to sleep?
I was sitting up in bed, yes.
Were you reading or watching TV?
I was just sitting up in bed praying for my headache to go away.
Oh, okay. So the migraine was still really
Yes.
bothering you. And you were suffering at that point.
Suffering? I had a headache.
Well, yeah, but a migraine headache, I would
Yeah.
imagine.
It was a headache, but I took medicine and I was waiting for it to get better.
To kick in?
Yes.
Okay. And that's sort of what you were concentrating on. It's really kind of hard to read or watch TV or concentrate on anything when you have a migraine, right?
Okay. Yes.
Well, yes or no,
Now-
lady. Like, don't make him make
You would
you
agree
say
with
yes
me
for no
that
reason.
your husband Chris was asleep when Colin came home, correct?
Correct.
He went to sleep quick.
And as a mother, you couldn't have gone to sleep until you
Well, he
knew your
was
kids were
drunk.
home, correct?
Correct.
And Colin was the remaining child who was out there, which when he came home, that would given you license to go to sleep.
Yes.
Now, at the time that Colin came home with Chris sleeping, it's fair to say this was just an ordinary weekend night, correct?
How do you?
Well, in other words, you didn't know that anything tragic had occurred or was alleged to have occurred, correct?
Correct.
So it wasn't like you were paying attention to the clock at that point and recording your memories as best you could because you knew you'd be testifying later, correct?
Correct.
Which also explains the 12-10 estimate, right? I mean, you're being asked about, times that things occurred, and it was just sort of an ordinary day, right? So it's difficult to pinpoint times, correct?
Correct.
Oh no, if something tragic like that happened, I would have remembered.
Okay. Now, directing your attention to the next morning,
I'm
you
saying, Chris,
missed a
to get
phone
out of
call from your best friend, Jennifer McCabe, correct?
Correct.
And you believe that phone call, I think according to your memory,
Jen
yesterday
McCabe.
came in at 5:55 p.m., correct? I'm sorry, 5:55 a.m., correct?
Correct.
That was the time that you gave Mr. Lally when he asked you the question on direct examination, correct?
Correct.
And you were able to recall that time nearly 2 years later, correct?
Yes.
But regarding
Okay,
the
you're going slow.
67 phone calls
Yannetti, I'm
between
gonna
you
have
and Courtney
to
Proctor that
rush you
happened
up.
after that, you're not able to recall any of those, correct?
I only slowed you down because you
I just
got
don't remember
something
them.
important going on.
All right, in any case, January 29th was your nephew Brian Albert Jr.'s birthday, correct?
Yes.
That's why you went to 34 Fairview at 8:30 in the morning, correct?
Yes.
And when you pulled into the driveway, there was nothing unusual to you, correct?
Correct.
This was just your
Sorry, but he's
brother-in-law
talking
Brian and
too
your sister-in-law
slowly.
Nicole's house with snow around, correct?
Yes.
There were no police on scene?
No.
There was no tent protecting the front lawn, correct?
If
Correct.
it's
No
too
crime
fast
scene
for anybody,
stapled
just let me
anywhere
know.
or taped anywhere, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Nobody appeared to be standing guard over the front
I'm
yard,
going
correct?
to smoke.
Correct.
I will
You
be
didn't see
right
any
back.
shard of
I'm
glass,
still
right?
here. I will be
No,
on
I did not.
the phone
You
check.
didn't see
Blah,
45 pieces of tail
blah,
light
blah.
strewn about the lawn, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you didn't see any pieces of tail light, correct?
I don't recall seeing anything.
And you didn't suspect that 34 Fairview was a crime scene, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
There was nothing that prevented you from walking all over
You
that front
think
lawn,
so,
correct?
Kevin?
Correct.
I thought that
It was
too.
still
I
snowing
thought
out?
the whole
Yes.
family. But
Brian Albert, when
we'll see
you
because we'll
approached
get
the house,
the
you opened the door,
homeowners
correct?
here.
I approached the
shortly.
car, not the house.
Oh, okay. You approached, whose car was it?
My nephew Brian's
Brian?
in the driveway. Yes.
All right. And then Brian Albert opened the door of the house.
The side door of the home. Yes.
All right, so can I have exhibit 8, please, with the court's permission?
Yes.
Oh my God,
Can we zoom
Kevin!
in just a little bit? I'm so bad at this. Jeez. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. All right. That I'm highlighting now is the front door to the house, correct?
Yes.
And if we move along Exhibit 8 to the right, is that the side door?
Yes.
And that's the door that Brian Albert appeared from?
Yes.
And you were able to see him from the outside of the house, correct?
Yes.
And you were over to this area?
Yes.
Do you recall, is it one of those two cars that's in Exhibit 8 that you approached with the Dunkin' Donuts?
I can't make out what the cars are.
Okay. But it was either one of those two cars or a car that was parked in one of those two places.
Yes.
All right. And then did you go in that side door to go into the house?
Yes.
Fair to say, that family has lived there for quite a while, correct?
Yes.
You knew that prior to Brian Albert and Nicole, I'm sorry. That's really bad form to block the jury. I'm so sorry. It's good I didn't trip. The door that is the front door, having been familiar with that house for a long time, you've gone in that front door before, correct?
Yes.
And you know that when you go in the front door of that house, you come into a little foyer area, correct?
Correct.
And then almost within arm's distance to the left is the door to the basement, correct?
Walking in the front door, arm's distance to the left.
Yes. So in other words, you walk into the house.
Yep.
And then the door to the basement, going down to the basement, is right there on the left, correct?
That's incorrect. To the left is the library.
All right. Where is the door to the basement?
You walk in the front door, you step to the right, walk a few steps towards the kitchen, and the basement door is on the left before you enter the kitchen.
All right. But the kitchen's off to the left, correct?
No, when you walk in the front door, the library is on the left. There's another room on the left.
Okay.
So you walk in, you immediately see a staircase in front of you,
Yeah.
and to the left is the library.
Right.
If you go to the right,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
if you go to the right, you can go into the part of the kitchen where the kitchen table is, or you can not go to the right, you can walk straight. And as you're walking, there's a door on the left, and that's where the basement door is.
Okay. So I think we're getting to what I was getting at. If you walk straight ahead, there's a door to the left that goes down to the basement, correct?
Correct. Yes.
We can have the left one. And when you were walking toward that side door, you didn't see any emergency or police vehicles outside, correct?
No, I did not.
You didn't see any first responders other than Brian Albert, correct?
Correct.
There were no lights flashing outside the house, correct?
Correct.
And inside, you saw Nicole Albert,
Yes.
Brian Albert,
Yes.
Jennifer McCabe,
Yes.
Matt McCabe,
Yes.
and Brian Higgins, correct?
Yes.
How long did you spend at the house that morning?
I don't remember exactly. Maybe a half hour, 45 minutes. I don't remember exactly.
And the 7 of you were discussing what had happened, correct?
Yes.
At some point, it was decided that Jennifer McCabe should contact Michael Lank of the Canton Police, correct?
Objection.
I'll let, if this witness knows independently.
Can you repeat that once more, please?
At some point, it was decided among the 7 of you that Jennifer McCabe should contact Michael Lank of the Canton Police Department.
I don't remember who exactly Jennifer decided. Yeah, I don't remember exactly the discussion.
You knew Michael Lank, correct?
Yes.
And at 8:53 a.m., you sent to Jennifer McCabe Michael Lank's personal cell phone number, correct?
Correct.
And did you then see Jennifer McCabe delete that text message from you?
Objection.
I'll sustain.
You were contacted by the Massachusetts State Police this year about your phone, correct?
Correct.
They left you a voicemail on March 21st of 2024?
The state police?
Yes.
About my telephone?
Well, they left you a voicemail on March 21st of 2024. You've had contact with the state police this year.
Yes.
And they left you a second voicemail on March 25 and then called you again on March 28.
Yes.
You told them that you were sick and you would speak to them on April 1st, correct?
Correct.
And then the state police called you on April 1st, but you did not pick up. Do you recall that?
I do not.
They called you again that same day and you didn't respond, correct?
I don't recall.
But you did learn that they had called your husband on April 1st looking for you, correct?
I don't recall.
All right. After speaking with your husband, you texted the Massachusetts State Police on April 1st, correct?
I think around that. I don't know the exact date.
All right. And you finally met with the Massachusetts State Police on April 3rd of 2024, correct?
I would assume. I don't know the exact date, but yes.
And during that meeting, the state police looked through your phone for contact that you would have had with Michael Proctor, correct?
Correct.
Did they seize your phone?
No, they did not.
Did they tell you that they had a search warrant for your phone?
No, they did not.
Did they take it back saying that they had to give it to some experts to do an extraction?
Objection.
Sustain.
They just looked through it after you handed it to them, correct?
Correct.
Then they gave it back.
Yes.
Now, with regard to your contact with Karen on January 28th, it was clear to you that Karen did not appear to be under the influence, correct?
Correct.
You didn't see her stumbling, correct?
Correct.
You didn't see her swaying.
Correct.
She was not unbalanced.
No.
She was not slurring her words.
No.
She was not talking gibberish.
No.
She was engaging in normal conversation.
Yes.
And she held the conversation perfectly fine.
Yes.
She appeared to be under control, correct?
Yes.
She was affectionate with John that night.
Objection.
I didn't come in contact with them like that.
Well, the two of them certainly were not arguing.
No, not that I saw.
You didn't see any tension between them, correct?
No.
And I mean, given your family's connection to law enforcement, you would not knowingly let someone drive a car if they were under the influence, correct?
Objection.
Everyone appeared to be having a good time that night. correct?
Yes.
And that included John and Karen, from what you could see, correct?
For the 10 15 minutes I was there, yes.
Now, after you left the waterfall, it's fair to say that you didn't know precisely where your son Colin was that night, correct?
I knew where he was.
Where was it?
He was at his friend Michael Leonetti's. He left Michael Leonetti's to stop to say happy birthday to my nephew Brian at 34 Fairview Road.
Okay. And you learned that from him, correct?
Yes.
All right. So you had
like I
learned
said,
that Colin was at 34 Fairview.
he just asked her if anybody was intoxicated, you wouldn't let them drive a car, would you? Did she just say yes? And she admitted, and she tried to like, oh, well, I don't know if they were all drunk because I was only there for 10 or 15 minutes. What? Your brother was shit-faced. I mean, your brother-in-law was shit-faced. Your sister-in-law was left early because I guess she had a headache too or some shit. She said she had a migraine too. Like all these, her sister-in-law, this is crazy. But yeah.
Fairview on January 29th of 2022, correct?
So now they're getting into her son being at the house, but they're saying, she's trying to say, oh, well, he wasn't there the time that John was there. But because her son does have animosity towards John about the whole get off my lawn situation and telling him fuck you to his face and shit like that, being a hellion, a teenager, that has no respect. But and you can see why. Look at his parents. I mean, his parents don't give a fuck. They let their child drink and shit. So I guess, if they know what's going on, it shouldn't matter, right? To them. Yeah. So that's what they're getting into right now because they're trying to bust the story wide open that there's no way he got home at 12:10, like he said, that he had left at 12:10. Because even the screenshots of text messages they doctored says 12:10. Why they let screenshots, why the judge even allows screenshots in is beyond me. And it's by key players. Like it's just so crazy to me, but okay.
January 28th. The Friday.
So is it your testimony that you know that Colin left on Friday night as opposed to after midnight on January 29th?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Oh my God, it's not that. He's not.
So Colin was at your sister-in-law Nicole's and your brother-in-law Brian Albert's house on January 29th, and you just corrected.
I'm sorry. It was after midnight.
Okay.
So I got confused. I apologize.
Not a problem. So
No,
the answer to
you
my
were
question
trying to
is you
fucking
learned that he was
cover
there on
the-
January 29th,
what-
correct?
Yes, after midnight.
And you now know that that is the same house outside which John O'Keefe was found dead that morning, correct?
Yes, I do.
And one last question. You were interviewed by Trooper Proctor, and it's fair to say you never told him that Colin was there that night, correct?
I don't recall my interview.
Yes, I can't wait for this trial. I really can't. I can't wait for this
no further questions.
one.
All right, so
There's so many trials
briefly on.
that I want to cover. Like, there's so many trials I want to cover, and I'm afraid that they're all going to end up around the same time because there's a Karen Read trial, then there's the Koberger trial. There's also the trial that's happening here in Utah of Corey Richens. She's accused of giving her husband an overdose of fentanyl, and and then she went off and made a grieving book for kids, and was a good author or whatever. I don't know much about that case because most of the proceedings have been, not televised, but I think her trial will be televised. But I think her trial starts around the same time Koberger's does. Koberger's is, and that's the guy that killed or allegedly stabbed 4 of the Idaho roommates, four Idaho roommates to death. And it's a death penalty case. I want to watch that one. I also want to watch the YNW Melly and the YSL trial part 2. YSL part 2. I mean, there's so many trials I want to cover. Like, they're just happening all at the same time. So I might have to pull double duty, you know? Shit. If that doesn't help me get in the algorithm, I don't know what will. Because if I'm posting one trial in the morning and then one trial at night, you know, I got to get somewhere, right? I will get monetized by the end of this freaking year. I will. That's my goal. I will. And I'm trying to get there. I really am trying to get there. Oh, fucking Lally. I didn't know that he passed her off. Hey, wait, lady. Wait. Yannetti, get back over there. You're not finished yet. Anyways, I guess he's finished. So now it's redirect. But yeah, there's so many cases I want to cover and so many trials because I love trial watching. I would get into true crime. If I had a partner in crime, I would do more true crime stuff like, you know, breaking cases and stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't like publicizing shit like that until they go to trial because they are presumed innocent until they're proven guilty. And I think we got to ask backwards. Like, yes, we should talk about the case. But as far as like arrests made and all that other, I don't know. A lot of people, you know, they think, oh, well, they arrested you, you're guilty. And something's got to change.
Morning, Ms. Allen.
Good morning.
Now, with reference to, you were asking a question about 67 calls over a period from February.
Yeah, I'm going to do
Correct.
that one.
That's about 7 months, is that right?
Yes.
Because that one should start by the end of her second trial. That one should start at the end of her second trial. I hope that this will be her second trial will be done by Koberger's because I believe his starts June. I also wanted to cover the Lori Vallow one. That's the doomsday cult mom that unalived her 2 kids and buried her in her 5th husband's backyard, and she went off to Hawaii and got married and acted like she didn't know where her kids were and all this other stuff. She gave them to so and so, and then her brother who shot her ex-husband claimed self-defense. Then he ended up dying weird. Her 5th husband's wife died weird. So yeah, that's a that's not a death penalty case because they fucked up on that one. It should have been a death penalty case. But anyway, so she's going to be representing herself. I'm thinking about doing her trial and the Karen Read trial. So the Karen Read trial, maybe, in the morning and then her at night, because I really want to cover that one. I want to see her defend herself because that girl's off a rocker.
About 210.
Oh, what the hell are you doing? I said play.
days or so.
Yes.
Do you have other friends besides Ms. Rocket?
Yes.
And versus some of your other friends, as far as those phone calls, 67 times over 210 days, is that more so, less so, or on average?
Oh my God.
Less so.
And at no point in time did you speak to
Lally, it doesn't matter. Okay, Lally, sir. Lally, let me talk to you. Okay, it's not that she talks to, that it's weird that she talks to her friend Courtney Proctor, 67 times in a month or whatever. It's not that. It's that she lied about it. Lally. Weirdo.
In the interview that you had with Trooper Proctor, there was another trooper present, correct?
Yes.
You just asked some questions about meeting with some other troopers this year in 2024, correct?
Correct.
And fair to say none of those troopers was Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
And also wasn't the trooper.
Yeah,
that was
I
with
like
Trooper Proctor
her.
when you spoke to him.
I like
Correct.
her, but I just.
And they asked you questions. You had at least 2 interviews with them, is that correct?
Correct.
And you voluntarily went to those interviews?
Yes.
I do like her. I do like her, but I can't do the scripts. Like I can't do the reading and talking about a case. I just can't. Like I have to be myself. That way, that's why I said if I ever get a partner in crime, that will come up and talk to me about shit. I would like to dabble in the true crime stuff. But I mean, trials are a part of true crime. So I'm still
Yes.
doing it, right?
Yes, when I was sitting there, they looked at my phone. Yes.
So they asked for your phone, you provided your phone.
Yes.
Voluntarily, nobody threatened you with a search warrant or anything like that.
No.
But see, the only problem with me and Christina Randall is Christina Randall's a hot girl. I'm not very hot there, Kevin. I may have to like get some liposuction or something, you know. And even then I wouldn't be hot. I'm pretty, but not hot. Like, you know, people are so superficial anymore. Like, you got to be hot.
You were asking questions about timing, and I promise there's no math that I'm asking in this, but you've had to walk outside when it's cold outside, correct?
Yes.
You tend to walk faster or slower when it's cold outside?
Faster, me personally.
When you went over to your in-laws' house on the morning of January 29th to drop off donuts.
Lally. Okay, you can't ask her, do you walk faster or slower in this now? Because it doesn't matter what she does. It matters what her husband does, dummy. He asks the dumbest fucking redirect questions I could ever ask for. Here goes the ritual. You dropped off donuts.
Your nephew. You weren't expecting to go inside, correct?
Correct.
You weren't expecting to be standing around talking to people about a friend of yours potentially having died at that point.
No.
Nothing further. May we approach?
Okay. Just feel free to stand up.
Yeah. She does the updates. I just show the trial. That's exactly right. Trials are a part of true crime too. Oh.
Breaker.
Okay, they're taking a break. And come back right around here. Hello.
Thank you. Please be seated. Court back.
Back on the record on the Reed matter.
All right, sort of a side issue in the Reed matter. So the defendant and her lawyers have been excused. Okay, so why don't counsel identify yourselves, please?
Sure. Adam Lally for the Commonwealth, Your Honor.
Karen McLaughlin for the Commonwealth. Right, good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Timothy Bradel on behalf of non-party Aidan Carney, who for the record is present in the courtroom.
Hey, does Mr. Carney want to sit with you?
I think he's okay right there.
Okay.
If that's all right, Your Honor.
All right. So.
This is about the
so
blogger.
I do want to say a question before we begin. Commonwealth, in your motion to exclude.
This is about the blogger. That they are saying witness intimidated all the Commonwealth's witness. All he's ever asked is to tell the truth. Is to tell the truth on this case. And blog that there was some fuckery afoot, you know. And does standouts. I mean, it's his First Amendment right, but they're claiming witness intimidation, all this stuff. And he has video evidence of most of it, not to be honest. So this is a side hearing to the Karen Read matter because he wants to blog. I mean, that's his job. He is full time. He has his own blog or website or whatever, and they're trying to exclude him from being in the courtroom to do his job.
Include an individual
Now that's some intimidation for you.
charged with witness intimidation in connection with this case from the courtroom during the testimony of certain witnesses. Before we begin, are you advancing the concerns of the DA's office or the concerns of the witnesses themselves, or both?
Both, Your Honor.
Okay, so
If I may, I'm sorry to jump in, but just if I may, I
Sure.
do have what I think is a pretty substantial procedural objection.
Okay.
Maybe I'd ask that you sort of just make a quick bifurcation of the issues here, and we can address the procedural issue before we get into the substance of the motion.
sure, I'll hear you.
We could. Thank you very much, Your Honor. Your Honor, so the record is clear, because we may need an appellate record in this case.
Okay.
But I was here in the Norfolk Superior Court today, completely unrelated to Mr. Carney, my client, as you know, in the other matters. And I was here today on the matter of Commonwealth versus Tylee Curry for a motion to suppress. And
Which is a case that I am in the middle of
Right.
that motion to suppress with you.
Exactly. And I actually figured that we wouldn't do the motion and get a date. But I was fully focused on that matter and had no notice whatsoever that the Commonwealth was in the Reed matter, was seeking to exclude my client as a journalist from this courtroom. The first thing is that, and I know the court has a job to do in terms of ruling on this motion, and that's fine. And I asked that the ruling be that it be denied on procedural grounds. The procedural grounds are, Judge, that there's been no service of process whatsoever on a case where the government is seeking to essentially trample all over my client's First Amendment rights as a journalist. On 15 minutes notice. I know you gave me the thing 15 or 20 minutes ago.
And it's more than a half an hour, but I understand.
All right, well, you get the point. So, this is not something that I can process and absorb and make any sort of cogent arguments on the merits of the motion on that time period. And I'm sure that the court respects that. I'm trying to address it as best I can, but I think that the procedural issues here should control. And here's the procedural situation, Your Honor, that the government filed the 6-page motion. There's a footnote 2 that refers to them serving this motion on May 8th to the Associated Press. Why they couldn't just pull up my email and serve me is an open question that I'd like an answer to in open court. So they can serve the AP 2 days ago, but they can wait and not even serve me with the motion when I get here to court today on a completely unrelated matter, I might add. So there's some funny business going on here, and there's been nothing but funny business from where I sit from the Commonwealth on Mr. Carney's matters. And here we go again. So I don't appreciate that from counsel, from the Norfolk County DA's office, number one. Number two, Your Honor. Mr. Carney has covered this case and written about 350 news articles on this case. He has developed evidentiary scoops on this case that have added to the quantum of evidence in the matter. He's never caused a problem. He wishes to be in the galley of journalists like everyone else and cover the case. There's never been a problem whatsoever. This is more personalized retaliation from the Norfolk County DA's office against Mr. Carney. Another point, Your Honor, is that this matter, as far as the Commonwealth is concerned, is res judicata times 2. Judge Krupp in this very court addressed this exact issue about Mr. Carney covering this matter, being in the courtroom with witnesses that had a stay-away order. All the same people that the government is trying to have another bite at the apple with here. All these people. This was adjudicated fully with the Special Assistant DA before Judge Krupp, and Judge Krupp ruled against the Commonwealth. Judge Krupp said that Mr. Carney was able to be in the courthouse covering this case regardless of any of these witnesses in the stay-away order. The stay-away order was exempted from Mr. Carney's presence in the courtroom, rather, was accepted from the stay-away order.
Okay.
So this is done. This has been adjudicated. It's been adjudicated again, Your Honor, by Judge Pomeroy across the street in the district court. One of these people associated with Mr. Carney's detractors, Ms. Gattani, has taken up with the Commonwealth and sought charges and sought a restraining order against my client. And Judge Pomeroy recently, as recently, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, we were across the street, Your Honor, seeking to vacate the order under the doctrine of unclean hands because this plaintiff keeps trying to contact my client while under restraining order. Putting that aside, the ruling in that matter, Judge, was another ruling in support of Mr. Carney's First Amendment rights. It was another ruling that said Mr. Carney was not subject to the restraining order in any court of the Commonwealth. And the reason we brought that motion, Your Honor, was because these same witnesses that the government here is, again, trying to advocate for their own personal issues, those same witnesses somehow took up with this plaintiff across the street, Ms. Gattani, brought her to court here in prior Reed proceedings to kick out Mr. Carney, because at the time she had an operative order against him. And Mr. Carney, to his credit, got up and left and got out of here. And that situation was what we addressed across the street with Judge Pomeroy. He agreed with us and said, you can go to court, you can cover this case. So number two, litigation number two, this has been established. Mr. Carney followed all proper channels. We worked with the SJC media office. He has a press pass. He's doing everything in accordance with all of the rules and regulations that are in place. He's been harassed, and we have it on video, by other so-called journalists on this case at the steps of the courthouse. and he just wants to be here. He doesn't want to be an issue in this case. He wants to sit here and cover the case. He's done his job. He wants to watch the trial unfold, and he has an absolute fundamental First Amendment right to do so within the confines of this courtroom and within the confines of time, place, and manner restrictions. He's followed everything, and he's here. We've gone through all of these hurdles, Your Honor, and Mr. Carney triumphed, as he should, because it's the First Amendment that needs to triumph here, not any particular person. And that's what he's doing. And there's absolutely no reason for the government to sneak behind my back to interfere with his First Amendment rights. It's outrageous, and on procedural grounds, I ask you to deny the motion for all of those reasons. And if the court has some hesitancy to do so with respect to these procedural issues, I ask that you set a date give me 7 days or so that I can properly respond to this motion on the merits of whatever's in these 6 pages of the motion that I haven't been able to look at. So thank you for hearing me, Your Honor.
All right, sure. And you wanted a response to your question from Mr. Lally on why you were not served, but the Associated Press was served.
That's correct.
So if you talk about that in the procedural part of this, Mr. Lally.
Yes, Your Honor. Simply put, Mr. Bradel, neither Mr. Bradel nor Mr. Kearney are parties to the case. I can't presume that Mr. Bradel's representation on one criminal case is going to extend to a motion of which he would be at best a third party on a separate criminal case. We are required under the SJC rules to serve it upon the Associated Press, which we did.
Okay. So I think that's your record now, Mr. Bradel.
Thank you.
Okay, on the procedural issue. Okay. We have a jury out. I do want to address the merits of this as best we can. And Mr. Bradel, at the end of this hearing, whatever I end up doing, if you want to come back and readdress it when there's more time, depending on how I rule, I'll give you the opportunity to do so. But I have to get this trial moving at this point, one way or the other. So I'm going to hear the Commonwealth on their motion. Then I'll hear you, Mr. Bradel, to the extent that you can respond. Okay. All right, Mr. Lally, I'll hear you on your motion.
Your Honor, very shortly, very simply put, this is an instance in which the Commonwealth is not asking that Mr. Kearney not be allowed to cover the case or that he not be allowed to watch the trial. What we're requesting is a partial closure of one individual. And the legal standard for that is...
okay, but this time, in order so he can't cover the case and he can't be in the courtroom when this trial's commencing, you put him on the fucking witness list. So he can't watch the trial until the case is over. This is his bread and butter.
Essentially a substantial reason. Substantial reason, Your Honor, being that Mr. Kearney has been indicted and has open cases for intimidating witnesses, specifically witnesses in this case. He has confirmed statements indicating publicly that his actions that he's taken in regard to those indictments were to prevent the case.
It doesn't mean that he has been found guilty. He is still presumed innocent. How does the DA figure that they can just, assume that he's going to be found guilty, sir?
Case from ever going to trial and to intimidate those witnesses. Those witnesses will be called to testify in this case. And what Commonwealth is simply requesting is that he be excluded physically from the courtroom, not excluded from watching the trial, not excluded from covering the trial, but excluded physically from the courtroom while those witnesses are testifying from the stand.
And the witnesses you told me have expressed concern. What do you say about that?
Yes, Your Honor. The witnesses have expressed concern. The Commonwealth is concerned as to his presence affecting their testimony or their ability to recall. And for all of those reasons, the Commonwealth will submit the administration of justice and the witnesses being able to testify, as well as the witnesses' own concerns are more than meet the test of the substantial reason for Mr. Kearney's exclusion during the course of their testimony.
Okay. Mr. Bradel?
Your Honor, the witness's concern has no legal materiality under the law. So the answer that I have is, so what? The witness's concern, where does that fit into the law here, Your Honor? This matter's been adjudicated twice. Mr. Carney has the right to speak on the case. He's gone through all the proper channels to be here. He is not in any way wants to or is trying to make any issue of his presence here. And he's just trying to cover the case as best he can. And this is just a personal vendetta that's been carried out by the Norfolk County DA's office against Mr. Carney. And this is where the court needs to hold the line on the First Amendment. This witness intimidation statute, Your Honor, is an absolute abomination. It is going to be struck down. It's just a matter of time. And this is just a continuation of everything the special counsel's been doing to Mr. Carney. And now the office itself is doing it. There's no reason for this motion to be allowed, Your Honor. There's no discomfort exception to the First Amendment, Your Honor. There's been absolutely nothing advanced, especially on an emergency basis, which is, I assume, why this is being done with no notice. There's been no establishment of any emergency. There's been no conduct whatsoever on the part of Mr. Carney to justify this motion. And I did happen to see some reference to the Chestnut trial about published something to the effect of doxing a seated juror. That is false. Mr. Carney wrote a story on a juror after the jury was discharged. There's absolutely no prohibition or problem or issue with that. And it is absolutely protected conduct by the First Amendment. And it is not in any way a grounds for this court or the Commonwealth to assert any wrongdoing against him.
So
just
I can
wanna
assure you,
stop
I am
this
not
table.
considering that incident in this. You all know I was the judge. I am not considering that experience in this motion.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything further, Mr.
Nothing further.
Bradel?
Thank you.
All right. So, Mr. Bradel, I agree with you that Mr. Kearney is certified by the Office of Public Information pursuant to SJC Rule 119, and that he has a right to be here today. He arrived timely, and that he is registered. I have honored that 119 registration today, and I will continue to honor that. However, my role in this case, Commonwealth versus Karen Read, is to assure that the defendant's constitutional right to a fair trial are honored and upheld. And because of the chilling effect that Mr. Kearney's presence, I find, will have on the witness's testimony, I'm
Oh
going to
my
excuse
God.
him while the named witnesses in the Commonwealth's motion, Julie Nagel, Christopher Albert, Colin Albert, Michael Proctor, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Brian Albert, and Yuri Buchanan. And the Commonwealth also today requested Nicole Albert because of the incidents that reportedly have been held at her home. I'm going to excuse him during all of that testimony. Now, in my media order, if you have it, I'm sure your client has it because they're handed out to the press. Under number 1, I say that anyone leaving the courtroom to the media during the trial proceedings may lose their seat and may not be permitted re-entry unless there is available seating. That will not happen to Mr. Kearney. I will not take away his seat today. For other witnesses who are not subject to this order, that seat will remain empty. No other person of the media will be able to take that seat in his absence. Okay?
Your Honor, one last thing, if I may, just came to me as I was standing here. Extension in the same regard as to Nicole Albert for the address would be Brian Albert Jr., son of Brian and Nicole Albert, lives
All
in the
right.
same address.
It's for the same reason. So Brian Albert Jr. All right. So those are my findings, Mr. Bradel. It should give you enough to seek appellate action if you wish. Okay. All right. Thank you for being here. All right. All right. So I'll take a short recess. We can bring counsel back in and Ms. Reed back in, and we'll proceed with the trial.
Court, all rise.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Here goes the homeowner's
Good morning.
wife.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
My name's Nicole Albert, Albert,
And where do you live?
Norwood,
And about how long have you lived in Norwood?
about a year.
And prior to moving to Norwood, where did you live? Where did you live prior?
Canton,
How long had you lived in Canton?
my whole life.
Now, the specific address, where did you live in Canton prior to your move to Norwood?
34 Fairview Road,
And how long did you live at that house?
about 12 years.
And are you married, man?
Yes,
What's your husband's?
Brian Albert.
Does he work?
He's retired from the Boston Police,
About how long was he an officer with Boston?
about 30 years.
And do you have children?
Yes, we have 5.
And how old are your 5 children?
My oldest daughter is 28, and then I have a son who's 25. I have another son who's actually 23 today. And then I have twins, a boy and a girl who are 20.
And your oldest daughter, what's her name?
Caitlin,
Your oldest son, what's his name?
Brian Jr.
And Brian Jr., does he live with you currently? Now,
What are you playing
your
with,
other children, do
Minnie?
they live with you as well?
My oldest daughter lives with her boyfriend in Easton, and my son Brandon lives with us. He's just finishing up college. He's graduating this month from college, so he's back with us. My twin daughter, goes to college, so she's home now for the summer, but she has an apartment in Bridgewater. And then the twin boy is in the military.
And what's
Hey,
your
I will
twin?
be here.
The
I will
Marine
be in
Corps.
the shop, though.
Now, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2022. Do you recall that day?
Mhm.
And do you recall what day of the week that was?
The Friday.
And at the time of January 28th, 2022, did you work?
Yes, I've been a part-time lunch lady for about 9 years.
And you since retired, is that correct?
I'm sorry.
You've since retired from that?
I haven't retired. I just didn't go back this past year. But
And around that date, so January 28th, 2022, what, if any, significance was the next day of January 29th?
January 29th was my son Brian Jr.'s 23rd birthday.
And over the course of that week, sort of leading up into the weekend, what, if any, plans did you make with reference to your son and his birthday?
He had mentioned he was going to get together with some friends on the Saturday night, the 29th, for his birthday. And I had said, okay, well, maybe Friday night, if anyone's around, any of our aunts or uncles or anyone, maybe we'll take you out, just local for some apps and drinks or something.
And coming up to that day of Friday the 28th, what, if anything, sort of changed in reference to those plans?
Well, they were, the forecast was saying a big snowstorm was coming in, and it looked like it was going to be late Friday into all day Saturday. So I had said to my son, well, obviously, it doesn't seem like anyone will be able to go out on Saturday night. Why don't you just do something with your friends Friday night?
And had you, at that time, already made some plans with friends and relatives in regards to going on Friday?
Yeah, I had just mentioned to my daughter Caitlin and my sister-in-law Julie, and just had mentioned it to them about possibly getting together Friday.
And just to be clear for the record, when you say your sister-in-law, Julie, how is she sort of related to you?
She's my husband's brother, Chris's wife.
And your husband has a number of siblings, correct?
Yes, he's the oldest of 7.
And yourself and Julie Albert, you guys are friends?
Yes, we're very close.
And so, also just one last question, sort of leading up through the course of that week, where did your husband Brian go?
Sort of last minute, I believe it was Thursday of that week, he went to New York for a funeral.
And you know who the funeral was in regard to?
It was for a New York police officer who had just been killed in the line of duty.
And do you recall how he got there as far as how he went from Kansas
I
to New York?
believe he may have flown Thursday to New York, and then the plan was to fly back Saturday, but that changed with the weather, and he ended up, they didn't want to get stuck there. So after the funeral Friday morning, they drove home. A friend of his had driven, so he got a ride back with them on Friday.
And only if you know, but as far as that friend that he drove back with on Friday, do you know who that was?
The friend who I believe had the truck there and drove was Brian Higgins.
And is that someone, Mr. Higgins, that you were familiar with prior to that date in January?
Yes, he was a friend of my husband's.
Now, on that evening of the 28th, can you explain to the jury sort of how it was that where did you decide to go with your daughter and your sister-in-law?
We just decided to go to Waterfall, a local place, 5-10 minutes down the road from our house. My sister-in-law, Julie, picked me up at my house, maybe 7:30, 7:45, and we went to the Waterfall, and I believe my daughter and her boyfriend, Tristan, were already inside at a table.
And when your sister Julie came to pick you up at the house, in addition to yourself and your son Brian Jr., with anyone else, were one of his friends there at that
I
time?
believe 2 girlfriends may have already had come, and they were just sitting in the kitchen when I left.
And so you go out to the waterfall. When you get to the waterfall, where within the establishment did you go?
We came in, walked in. I believe to the left there was just some small tables, and I think Caitlin and Tristan were already sitting there. So we sat down at the table and we ordered food and just hung out for a little bit, had food and some drinks.
And as far as drinks were concerned, do you recall sort of what you were drinking that night?
I was probably drinking White Claw.
God bless you. Now, later on in the evening, was there any sort of live entertainment there?
Yes. After we ate, my daughter's boyfriend Tristan left shortly after because he was going to be going out shoveling, working with a plow guy. So he was planning to go home and just sleep, take a nap, because he was going to have to get up like in the middle of the night to go out and do that. So he had left. So it was just me, Julie, and Caitlin. And at one point, the waitress had said, "Oh, a band's going to be setting up where you're sitting. Can I move you?" So she just kind of moved us over to like a high top table.
And then after you were moved over to the high top table, if anyone else came in to join you?
Shortly after, I believe my sister Jennifer and her husband Matt came in. I had texted her just saying I was there if she was interested to come by. I think she said she was somewhere else. Did I want to come there? And I said, "Well, no, I'm already situated. The band's going to play. I'm just going to stay here." So she said, "Okay, maybe we'll come there." So maybe 9 as she came in with another couple. I believe they had been at a basketball game, their daughter's basketball game. So she came in with them.
And again, just to be clear, when you say your sister Jen and her husband Matt, what is their last name?
McCabe.
And she's your younger sister, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as after they came in, if anyone else sort of came in and joined your group?
Shortly after that, I believe Julie's husband, Chris, came in. He worked up the street at his pizza shop. So I believe shortly after 9:30, he came down, he came in. And then in the meantime, my husband was, getting close to being back to the area from driving back from New York. So I had texted him and said, "Hey, me and Katie and whoever else are here, if you want to come by." And he was like, "Oh, I'm kind of tired. It's been a long day." And I just pushed him a little. "Oh, well, Katie's here. Just come. She wants to see you." So he's like, "All right, maybe I'll pop in." So I believe after, so it was Jen and Matt and the other couple. And then Chris came in. And then I believe maybe around 10, Brian came in.
And after your husband Brian came in, was there anybody else that came in and joined you?
Shortly after, maybe 10:30, his friend Brian Higgins had come in.
So your husband Brian and Brian Higgins came in separately about a half hour apart?
I think so, yes.
And following that, if anyone else came into the establishment and sort of joined your group at that time?
A little bit later, I think approximately 11, John walked in with his girlfriend.
And when you say John, who's John?
John O'Keefe.
And how did you know John O'Keefe prior to that night?
I didn't know him that well. I think I'd only met him once, maybe twice through my sister. Brief interaction. I think when he first walked in, actually, I didn't recognize him. I think I said to someone, "Oh, who's that?" Because they were kind of walking towards that table. And they said, "Oh, it's John O'Keefe." I said, "Oh." So they came in and they just kind of went to the end of the table where like my sister Jennifer and Matt and Chris and Julie were, because they knew them. I had never met Karen and I'd only met John once or twice. So they kind of just went to the other end of the table where Jen and Matt were, who they know, and Chris and Julie, who John had been neighbors with for a couple of years. So they were all just kind of at that end talking.
And probably pretty well understood. But just to be clear, as far as the sister that you knew of John through, that was your sister that was there, Jennifer?
Yes, Jennifer.
And as far as you referenced his girlfriend, had you ever met his girlfriend before that night?
No.
So you had never met Karen Read prior to that night? That's how you recall?
Nope.
And at any point in time, did you have any interaction, or what if any interaction did you have with either Mr. O'Keefe or Mr.
At one point, John walked but towards me and my sister, my daughter at the table, and said, "Hey, I'm going up to the bar. Do you guys need a drink or anything?" And we said, "No, thank you." I think he then kind of stopped and spoke with my husband for a minute. Probably was asking him the same thing. Then John went back up to the bar, and then he went back down to where he'd been standing, and that was the only interaction I had with him.
And as far as your understanding or your knowledge of Mr. O'Keefe, did you know what he did for a living?
Yes,
And what did he,
I knew he was a Boston policeman.
and was he somebody, if you know, that works with your husband?
No, I don't believe he ever worked with my husband. I don't believe they ever crossed
Yeah, I'll
paths at
get
work.
there.
I think they were in different areas of the job.
Fair to say Boston Police Department is a relatively large department.
I'll get there one day, and then the watch hours, the 4,000 watch hours, but I'll get there. I'm doing it by the end of the year.
Yeah, it's like 3,000.
Now, with reference to Ms. Reed, what any interaction did you have with her that night?
I had none. I don't believe we spoke or we were introduced or anything. I don't think we spoke at all.
Now, turning back to Mr. O'Keefe just for a second, if you recall, what, if anything, do you recall him to be wearing as far as clothing was concerned during your interaction?
I believe he had a hat on, some sort of just sweatshirt, jeans, and sneakers.
At any point in time that you saw him or while he was talking to you, did you see any sort of like winter jacket or big coat or anything like that?
No,
And as far as his clothing was concerned, did you observe it to have any sort of tears in it or any dishevelment, anything like that?
no,
And as far as his face was concerned, or any sort of outward part of the body, did you observe, or what, if anything, did you observe with regard to injuries on him or anything like that?
nothing like that.
Now, as far as your home was concerned, was that somewhere that either Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed had ever been to before?
No.
And over the course of the evening, what, if any, discussion was there that you heard or were a part of in regard to sort of what we're going to do or where to go after leaving the waterfall?
Well, after the band wrapped up, I was getting ready to leave, and I just kind of leaned over to my sister Jennifer and said, "Hey, Brian Jr.'s at the house. I think he just has two friends there. He's going to be turning 23 at midnight. If on your way home you wanted to swing by and say happy birthday, if you want to do that, come by and do that." And she was like, "Okay, And then I was just kind of gathering up my stuff, and I got ready to leave. It may have been mentioned at the table, but I had no idea, if anyone else was interested in doing that or wanted to do it. I had just said it to my sister.
And if anybody else had wanted to join or come along, would that have been an issue?
Oh no, I would have no problem if anyone sitting with us had come.
But as far as you knew, you just communicated that to your sister Jennifer, and whatever happened after that happened.
Yes,
And when you say sort of the band was wrapping up and the bar sort of winding down, is that correct?
yes,
About what time was that?
like 12:45.
And
Shush.
about what time was it, if you know, about what time was it that you left the bar?
A little before 12ish.
And who, if anyone, left with you?
It was me, my daughter, Caitlin, and my husband.
And how did you get from the waterfall back to your house on Thursday?
My husband drove the three of us back to Fairview Road.
And when you came outside of the waterfall and were sort of getting in your car and about to drive home, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the weather or what was going on at that point?
It was just starting to snow a little, nothing major.
You
Just a little
know,
snowfall
I'm
started
really
coming down.
wondering
You
if
could still sort of see the street and the blacktop.
it
Yeah.
was just her husband, her, and her daughter that drove home. I'm wondering if old Brian Higgins left his car over at Brian Albert's, and they all drove there together because they left at the same time. But instead of him sweeping the driveway with his plow or whatever he said.
And again, about how long a car ride is that, generally speaking, from the waterfall to your house on Thursday?
5 minutes, 7 minutes.
And as when you arrived at Fairview, who, if anyone, was there when you got there?
When we arrived and I came in, my son was sitting there with his two friends and my nephew Colin, who is Julie and Chris's son. He was there. I kind of bumped into him when I walked in. I didn't realize he was there. I said, "Oh, hey, what are you doing here?" And he said, "Oh, I just stopped by to see Brian, but I'm about to leave. My ride's about to be here." I said, "Oh, okay."
And let me back up just for a minute. So when you arrived there, your husband Brian was driving. Where does he park in relation to the house?
We pulled into the driveway.
And typically, is there sort of an order to it as far as where the cars go, like his car versus your car versus any other car?
Not really. No.
Do you recall on that evening which side of the driveway he pulled into, the
I
left?
believe it was in front of the left garage.
And when you come into and enter into the house when you were living there at 34 Fairview, was there, how many doors are there sort of on the front of the house?
Well, there's a side door by the garage, and then there's like a front door in the front of the house.
And is there any sort of particular rhyme or reason as to which door you would be entering?
We usually use the side door. Initially I didn't like that because the side door walked right into the family room. So I kind of like the other door. You could walk into a foyer you could take your shoes off, stuff like that. But eventually people just didn't want to, it was, quicker to walk in the side door for the kids, I guess. So they would just go in the side door. But I think that night, because of the weather and it was wet out, I think I went in the front door so I could walk into the foyer and take my shoes off or wipe my feet or whatever. But some of the other people still may have gone in the side door.
And when you sort of come into that front door, where you were going in to sort of take your shoes off in the foyer, is that when you ran into your nephew Colin?
Yes.
And about how old was Colin around that time?
It was 17.
And you mentioned that he had a ride. Did he give you any indication as to who that ride was?
He didn't mention at that time who the ride was.
And that sort of interaction that you had with Colin in your house prior to him leaving and walking out, about how long a period of time was that?
A couple minutes, not even, just a quick
I'd say
interaction.
He left
And then he left the home.
when there's
You didn't see
reports
him for the rest of
that he didn't leave,
And
and
when you come into the home, and again, I'm sorry, who was
his
there sort of initially
little
when you-
friend.
So my son Brian and his two friends Julie and Sarah were just kind of sitting at the kitchen table in like the dining room area of the kitchen.
Her sister's
explain
daughter
to
is the
jury
one that
sort of
picked
the
him up.
layout of your home in Fairview. So we walk into a foyer, and then where is the kitchen related to that?
Well, if you walk in, if you go to the right, it's like an open doorway, and that's kind of like the dining room part of the kitchen. But then it extends to the back of the house where.
The only thing I don't like about these witnesses is like they try to bring in the blogger, the blogger that was just excluded out of when they testify. They try to bring up, witness intimidation on his part and whatnot, and try to like make it seem like Karen's a part of it, and she's not a part of that case. It's just a bunch of crap. Like what he does as a journalist, reporter, whatever the freak you want to call him, blogger, is his own doing. And yeah. And he didn't do anything, in my opinion, that seemed like witness intimidation, but whatever.
It's like an island and like the sink and the counters and the cabinets and all that. So it's just like long.
So as far as the dining room and the kitchen, is there any sort of like wall or structure? or
No,
anything
it's
separate
open in between the two of those things.
And then if I were to go sort of further back within that home beyond the kitchen and the dining room, what's back there?
Well, to the right, there's like the family room.
And is there anything as far as the wall? Can you see into the family room?
You can. It's like an opening. Yeah, it's not completely open, but there's an opening.
So if someone was standing in the family room and you were standing in the kitchen, you could see them, converse with them.
Yes.
And when you come in and your son Brian Jr. is sitting around the table with two girls, Sarah and Julie, what are they doing?
We're just sitting there.
Is there any sort of music playing or anything like that going on?
There may have been. I'm not sure if there was music playing at that time, but there might have been.
When you say at that time, was there anything that happened later on?
They're
Well,
trying
later
to
on,
make
I remember that we
like
had
it
music
was
connected to like
loud
a
in
little
the
speaker
house, so they couldn't
that we were
get,
playing.
couldn't
Yeah,
have heard
but when I
anything
first walked
going
in, I
on
don't remember if
outside.
they had music going or not.
That's what.
And you get back to the house, and what is it that you're doing sort of when you come back?
So I come in, I assume I, said happy birthday to my son, said hello to his friends, and then I just kind of went to the kitchen area, and like they had ordered food, and so I just did my usual thing. I just was picking up, wasn't a huge mess, but I was just picking up the area, cleaning, probably check the bathroom to make sure that was clean. Just my usual thing that I do, just picking up around the house.
And I don't mean to minimize this in any way, but you basically did the mom thing where you go around and start cleaning up, right?
Yeah, yep.
And is that something that you did sort of continuously throughout the evening, or?
Yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Now, after you arrived home, who, if anyone else, came by your house?
Well, once we were there, it was me and my daughter and my husband, and Brian Higgins had come in. And then it was, Brian and his two friends were already there. And then my sister Jen and her husband Matt came in maybe like 12:15ish.
And so, Mr. Higgins, did he come in around the same time as you, or did he come after or before?
Yeah, he came in the same time. I mean, I think he might have pulled up to our house before us. We got out of the car and went right into the house. So I assume he just came in.
The only thing that would be bad on her part is she's covering for her husband or her nephew. That's the only bad thing probably on her part. Other than that, yeah, she's. I don't see anything wrong with her. It's others, but she's the homeowner. Also, it's kind of weird that they rehomed their dog and, sold their house right after this happened. So, yeah.
Men, basically around the same time.
Do you have any idea sort of what Mr. Higgins was driving that night when he came to your house?
I believe it was a Jeep.
Do you have any idea where, in reference to your house, where Mr. Higgins parked?
I'm not sure. I thought it was out on the curb facing up Fairview, maybe by our mailbox. It could have been in the driveway. I'm not 100%.
So when her sister, so she's Jen McCabe's sister, that she could be, covering for her story too. But after her, she is, her and the other wife, the other wife did some, sketchy things, and because, it was her son that may or may not be involved. I'm not saying he is or isn't, because I don't have evidence to back it up, but it just seems wonky in their timeline. I'm just going to say that it looks fishy. And they accept screenshots of messages rather than, actually extracting the data and getting the messages off the phone themselves with the metadata, and some screenshots of pictures and stuff like that. Like it shouldn't be allowed in, I mean, I can understand if the Commonwealth did it, but they didn't do any of that. They let the witnesses bring in their stuff. And that shouldn't happen.
Percent sure.
Not something you were particularly paying attention.
And if you had nothing to hide, why do you have to do stuff like that? You know what I mean? Just be honest. If you have nothing to hide, come on, like, you'll go a lot farther if you just tell the truth.
No.
And at some point after you and your daughter and your husband and then Mr. Higgins comes along, about how long a period of time is it between your arrival in the home and then when Ms. McCabe and her husband come?
15 minutes, 20 minutes?
And as far as your nephew Colin, when he had left, was Ms. McCabe and her husband there yet?
No.
And when Ms. McCabe and her husband come, where is it that, while you're at your house, where is it that everybody sort of comes?
They came in and they sat down at the kitchen table with Brian and his two friends, and then I believe my daughter Caitlin was sitting at the table as well.
And back at your home after leaving the bar, was there any drinking that was going on there afterward?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were okay. Her dog was a family dog and had been in the family for like 7 years. And they just step and get rid of their dog because, well, yeah, their dog is aggressive, didn't like people, didn't like strangers. It was a protective dog. Like it was a police officer's family's home dog, I mean, it wasn't a police dog by any means, but it was the same breed, a German Shepherd, and they're pretty protective. And it's already bit one person before this all happened. And you'll see that his arm is, it looks like bite or claw marks from a large animal, a dog, not a cat. Could have been a raccoon or a bear, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a larger animal. But it's fishy when, yeah, the dog bit somebody else and they hurried up and rehomed it. But at the same time, before this case was broken wide open, hello. And you rehome your house that you've lived in all your life right after this. It's just fishy shit. Like, and even if you have nothing to hide, like, okay, innocent. Oh, I sold my house. We were planning on selling it so we could divvy it up. It was part of the estate or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's just wild. Why not sell it back to your parents? Because it was your parents' home. Your parents moved out of it just so you could have it, basically. But he sold that home and bought a new one, and they don't live in Canton. They live outside of Canton now. After all this shit, it's just like, what do you have to hide? And for the police officer just to hide the shit too, like, you lost your job because of that. Just dumb.
And about how long, skip forward to a little bit, people had left your home. About how long period of time was it that people, from the time that you arrived back from Waterfall?
No, they're Red Sox. They're not Yankees.
By the time everyone left, it was probably close to 2.
And who was the last person that left?
My daughter Caitlin.
And you know how it was that she left, or who, if anyone picked her up?
Her boyfriend Tristan picked her up because, like I said,
So this trial, they're saying, the defense never tried to, find the dog. Okay, well, the defense doesn't need to. The defense doesn't have a burden of proof. They burden shift a lot, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Like saying, oh, well, the defense had a choice to do that. No, you have a choice to present your case, prove to the jury that they did it, that she did it, prove it. But here you are, you're trying to give them questions to, whatever you call it. You try to, no, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, I can't think of what I was going to say. You bring up questions that so they can distance themselves from what was going on, and try to. And honestly, after they get, I think it's before Jen McCabe. Maybe it's after Jen McCabe, but they bring in like all these software engineer bullshits and say that the 227 search didn't happen. But you guys use Cellbrite, and how are you to tell us that, oh, Cellbrite's reliable? Then you turn around and say it's not reliable when it doesn't help you prove a case? That's not how it should work. I don't think they should be able to do that. Like, if you're going to stand behind, a certain software, you should stand behind it, whether you win or lose a case. I mean, in all honesty, a prosecutor's job is to find the truth and justice and get justice. And they're not trying to find the truth. All they have to do is take those pants and take the people that were inside that house that night, get all their DNA, so you're not singling them out, even though there's only male DNA on his clothes and other than his. And that's how you find justice, instead of framing a person because she dated him. And she was, like, oh yeah, well, she's perfect because she backed up into his car and cracked her taillight. So we'll just say she ran him over and we'll crack her taillight even more. No.
He was going to have to get up anyways overnight to do the shoveling plowing thing. So I think she didn't want to get stuck probably at our house for the next day. So she had just said, hey, can you?
Okay, I'm going to end your answer there. Next question, Mr. Lally.
Prior to your daughter Caitlin leaving, when you asked me this, as far as people leaving from your house, what was sort of the order about?
And then see, she like over, if you're telling the truth, you don't need to over explain your answer. If that makes sense. You don't need to like explain into like full detail, depth, or whatever you may think that you need to say. You could just say yes, no, or she didn't want to get stuck. Her boyfriend came to pick her up early. I mean, stuff like that. But you're just keep going and going and going. Like, because she her and the other wife that just got done and the brother, they're all covering for somebody. Who? I don't know.
Of how people left and when people left.
I believe
They're trying to make their family look less suspicious, is what they're trying to do.
Brian Higgins left first, approximately 1:30ish. Then Jennifer and Matt and Brian's two friends left 12:45, 12:50. And then, 1:45, 1:50, I'm sorry. And then Caitlin was probably closer to 2.
And when your daughter Caitlin left, who, if anyone, was left downstairs and sort of awake between yourself and the other people that lived there?
Just me.
How did your son's two friends leave after your sister, when your sister is the one that took him home? Lady,
So your son.
you're slowly exposing that you're covering for something. Like, it shouldn't be that freaking important. Like, really.
And your husband are both gone up to bed at that point?
Yes.
And at any point in time, so you mentioned that there were a number of people that were sort of around the table in the kitchen, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes, sorry.
where did anybody else go sort of around your house during that time?
I know at one point, my husband and his friend Brian were in our family room. So I kind of went in there and was talking to them. We had some shelves on the wall that just had a bunch of pictures, old pictures from our wedding or when Brian was in the Marine. So we would just kind of look at them, laughing, talking about them. We stood in there for a little bit talking. And then eventually we just kind of moved into the kitchen area where everybody else was.
And to your knowledge, had Mr. Higgins been over your house at any point prior?
He may have been at our house for a graduation party, but I wasn't sure if he had ever like been inside because the party was outside, it was a cookout. So I don't know if he'd been in that part of my house.
Now, as far as the outside of the house, at any point in time during the course of the evening, did you hear anything unusual, see anything unusual outside of your house?
I didn't.
At any point in time, did you go, were you aware of anybody
That is
in
not
your
a-
house that didn't come in?
Oh my God, that's
I was
not a
only
good
aware at one
look
point
for
I saw
her.
my son, I think either looking out the window or at the door, and his friend Julie, she went out the side door, and I said, oh, to Brian, oh, is Julie leaving? And he said, well, no, she had her brother for a ride.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. So no conversation. And Mr. Lally going to ask another question.
Okay.
So you saw your son, friend Julie, go outside?
Mhm.
And,
So that has to be a
Sorry.
yes or no. Okay.
Sorry.
and at some point, did Julie come back into the house?
Yes.
And about how long was it, if you know, that she was outside before she came back?
I don't think it was very long, a couple minutes.
And over the course of the entirety of the evening, at any point, did anybody else, other than the people that you talked about previously, come into your house?
No.
And specifically, John O'Keefe or Karen Read, that you saw at the bar earlier that night, at any point in time on the evening of the 28th or the early morning of the 29th, did either of those people come into your house?
No, they never came into my home.
And at any point in time, even on that evening or that early morning of the 29th, were you aware that they were coming to you?
I actually wasn't. I think when I was in the other room with my husband and his friend, I had missed the conversations about Jennifer reaching out with John or her texting him and him texting her about where we lived. I didn't even realize that that was happening, that they had any intention to come.
Let me ask you a little bit about sort of going back to the waterfall just for a brief moment. Over the course of your time there, how would you describe sort of the tone or how was everybody at the waterfall?
It was fine. It was a nice night. It was nothing out of the usual. Just had a good time.
So nothing abnormal, no arguments, no fighting or anything like that?
No,
Same question as it relates to back at your house now, 34 Fairview Road. How would you describe sort of the atmosphere back there?
same thing. We were just hanging out, sitting around the house talking, having a good time. Nothing crazy.
Now, after your daughter, Caitlin, gets picked up and she leaves, what if any, how long did you stay up after that?
I think once she left, I just did my final cleanup of the kitchen and, shut the lights and I went upstairs to bed.
And do you recall anything about locking the front door or any of the doors to your house before you went up to bed?
No,
Is that something that you would always do, typically do, never do?
it was the type of thing where we have 5 kids. Everyone's coming in and out at different times. Like the last person in was supposed to lock it. But then, we changed the doorknobs and immediately the keys got lost. It was just always a disaster. So a lot of times the door was just kind of left unlocked.
And when you went up to bed, you share a bedroom with your husband, Brian, correct?
Yep.
And was he awake or sleeping?
He was awake. He was just lying in bed watching TV.
Now, as far as over the course of that evening after you come up to bed with your husband, do you recall anything about him talking to anyone on the phone or any phone conversations or anything like that?
I do not.
At some point you fall asleep and then you wake up the next day, is that right?
Yes.
And turn your attention to later on that morning of the 29th. So you had gone to bed about what time?
Probably 2:30ish, somewhere around there.
And it's a little unclear from my question, but when you go up to your bedroom, about what time is that?
About 2-ish.
And so the 2:30 that you're talking about, that's sort of when you fall asleep.
Yeah, sometime around there.
And from that next morning, how is it that you wake up the next morning?
Well, at some point between 6 and 6:30 that morning, my sister Jennifer came bursting into my bedroom.
And I'm bursting into your bedroom, is that correct?
Yes.
And what, if any, how would you describe your sister Jennifer and how was she sort of acting at that?
Well, she came in, my husband and I just kind of sat up in bed and she's saying, he's out in the snow. We found him out in the snow. We don't know if he's okay. And my immediate thought was just that something had happened to one of my children, something had happened to one of her children. I couldn't imagine why she was in my bedroom at this time in the morning. And I'm like, Jennifer, what are you talking about? And she's like,
Objection.
All right, next question.
Your Honor, if I may? Can we approach?
Okay.
You reapproach because I want to get this hearsay in. She's going to testify. Look at her, look at Nicole. If looks could kill, they all would be dead. They all would be dead. If looks could kill, they'd all be dead. Okay, let me stop singing and bring your ears. If looks could kill, they all would be dead.
Sorry, one moment. Let me back up just for a second. As far as when your sister Jennifer comes into your bedroom, do you know about what time that was?
between 6 and 6:30.
And it's fair to say that's not a normal occurrence.
No, never happened before.
And if you could just describe your sister Jennifer's demeanor when she first comes into you guys?
Karen?
She was hysterical.
No, you didn't like to be a
And she said some things to you, and then where did you go from there?
Well, I tried to ask her what was going on. What is she talking about? And she told us.
Objection, Your Honor.
No, I'm going to allow that.
So she told us, what had happened or what she had just witnessed outside. And we were just trying to understand what she's saying. Like I said, I didn't know if it was something that happened to one of her kids, one of my kids. And so I said, Jennifer, I don't know what you're talking about. So she finally was like, well, John, remember John from last night at the waterfall? And I'm like, what do you mean? How could he be
She's
outside?
starting to
And
get
she's like,
anxiety.
you gotta get up. The police are here and they want to talk to you. So my husband and I got up. I think I threw on a sweatshirt and we started to walk down the stairs. As we walked down the stairs into that foyer area, Officer Link was walking in the house.
And so that front foyer would have been the front foyer we talked about before?
Yeah.
And when you get sort of down to the bottom of the stairs, is it just Officer Lank, or are there any other officers with him?
It was just Officer Link at that time. And the door was halfway open. I kind of pushed over and looked out and I saw like a cruisers and a couple of guys, standing out in the snow. And I said, Jennifer, where's John now?
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to move on, Mr. Lally. The objection is sustained.
As far as when you looked outside, did you see any ambulance or fire truck or anything like that?
No, I didn't see an ambulance. I did see maybe 2 cruisers. I don't remember if there was a fire truck there. I don't think there was, but I'm not sure.
And,
Trying to cover up the
as
hair
far
or
as
what?
Officer Lank or any other officers, these are officers with their camp police, is that correct?
Yeah.
And where did they go once you opened the door?
So he came in the house and I believe around the same time Jennifer's husband, Matt, had come. I assume she had called him or whatever. So it was me, Brian, and Jen and Matt. And Officer Lang said, can I come in? Can I talk to you guys? And we said, sure, absolutely. He came in, we sat at the table and he was just kind of asking us all, okay, where were you last night?
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay, sustained. Next question, please.
The table that you're talking about, where in the house did you talk about?
That same dining room area.
You get it out?
Without regard to sort of content of the conversation, but about how long a period of time did that conversation with the officer go on?
I don't know, 45 minutes. Maybe, I'm not exactly sure.
As far as how the conversation ended, at any point during the conversation, did yourself or your sister or your husband or did anyone ever sort of end the conversation or tell the officers to leave the home or anything like that?
No.
You okay?
You welcomed them inside once you realized what was going on?
Yes, absolutely. And I believe another officer had come in as well.
Now, after the officers leave from your home, what happened next?
Okay.
So I believe they left and said that someone would be in touch with us, the state police or somebody. So they left and we were all just kind of sitting there in shock. I'm asking Jennifer, what happened? How did you end up here? What's going on?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. Next question, please.
Your Honor, as far as may we approach this briefly?
Okay.
Leave him alone. Get it out, baby. You okay? Oh my goodness. They're not going to let it through. It's hearsay, sir. Again, huh?
So, Ms. Albert, without any sort of specifics of your conversation with Ms. McKay, you had a conversation with her, is that correct?
Yes.
And about how long did that conversation go on for? In case?
Just her? I mean, we were all just kind of sitting around the table talking.
And just to be clear, when we say all, who was all of this?
It was me, my husband, and Jennifer and Matt.
And at some point later on, did other people come over?
Yes, at some point, my husband's friend Brian Higgins came over.
And do you know how he came to be at your house that morning?
I believe Brian called him to let him know. I mean, he had been with us the night before, and I think he had been friends with John and Karen, so Brian thought he should let him know.
And do you know about what time that was or how long it was after the officers left that Ms. Higgins came over?
Could have been 15, 20 minutes. I feel like he came somewhere around 7:38.
I'm okay.
And maybe the link had been done by 7:15. If he was around 6:30. I'm not really sure of the specifics.
And what happened then?
Then we were all just still kind of sitting there. Kerry who is another person that was called that morning, she had been at the hospital. So she was kind of calling Jennifer, giving updates as to what was happening with John. So we were kind of waiting to hear how he was, if he was okay. Then around, I don't know if it was 8:30, I had noticed my sister-in-law, Julie, had pulled into the driveway, and I saw her get out, and she was putting a box of donuts in my son's car, whose birthday it was, because they had a bit between them where every year she did that. She got him donuts, and she would leave them for him. So I saw her, and I said to my husband, "Oh,
dog inside."
Objection.
Okay, not what you said. Not what you said to your husband. So wait for another question.
okay, sorry."
That's okay.
Spoke to her husband, and where did he go?
He went to the door because Julie was about to get back in her car and leave, and I thought that she should be made aware of what was going on.
And so your husband goes to the door, and at some point, your
I'm
sister-in-law
still
Julie comes in
here.
the house.
I'm
Yes.
going to be in the chat though.
And if you know about how long period was Julie at your house initially that morning?
An hour or two. I'm not sure.
If you're not sure, you're not sure. So as far as people that were over your house that morning, do you have any idea sort of how long people were congregating around your house after that initial Ms. McKay bursting into your bedroom?
Again, it could have been between an hour and two.
And at some point, we mentioned that the Canton officers had indicated that you may be spoken to at some subsequent time by troopers from the state police, correct?
Yes.
And when was it that you, if you know, when was it in relation to this date that you spoke to anybody from the state police?
I wasn't interviewed for a couple days later.
And do you recall where you were when you were interviewed?
I was at my house.
Now, with reference to, you indicated that on the way back from the waterfall to your house at Fairview on the night previous, on the 28th and the 29th, it just started to snow, is that correct?
Yes.
When you looked outside that or opened the door for Officer Lang as he came into the house, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the weather and how it changed in the interim?
Well, to me, it was starting to look like blizzard conditions. It was very windy. It was snowing. It was, the snow was starting to come down a lot now, and it was probably a couple inches accumulated. And it was,
Now, at any point in time over the course of that day on the 29th, did you yourself, did you go outside from your house into the front yard, the driveway, or anywhere else?
I didn't.
And anyone else from your house other than the people coming and going? The people that live there, did you observe them going out into the front of the house area?
No.
May I approach the witness?
Yes.
Ms. Albert, I'm placing before you a series of 8 photographs. I just asked you to look at them, review them, and then just look up whenever you finish.
Are these already in evidence?
They're not. And just to ask you, ma'am, in general, in those photographs, do you recognize what's in those photographs?
Yes.
Okay, what do you recognize those to be?
That's my front yard.
That was your front yard when you lived at 34 Fairview Road?
Yes.
And what's contained in there is that a fair and accurate portrayal of around the time of January 29th, 2022.
Yes.
I'm going to come up to introduce and admit.
Any objection, Ms. Little?
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you. Yes, please.
With court's permission.
Hold on. We need to mark these. How many were there, Mr. Lally?
8.
Thank you.
May I approach this retreat?
Yes.
One moment, Your Honor.
Yes. Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch if you'd like, okay?
I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
What I'm showing here is what's been marked as exhibits 58, 59, 60, 63, and 64. And I'm going to direct your attention to this before you with the laser pointer. Just click on this button.
Okay.
And Your Honor, before permission, first, I'd just like to start with exhibit 58 on the screen.
Okay.
And again, Ms. Allen, do you recognize what's up on the screen there?
Yes,
And what do you recognize there?
it was my home at the time.
And from this photograph, do you see that front door area where the foyer is and the side door area that you were talking about on the house?
Yes.
If you could, using the laser pointer in your hand, just direct the jury's attention to where each of those are and indicate where they are.
That would be the very front door, and then the side door is over here in between.
And as far as the sort of what's in the front portion of this photograph, do you recognize that as if I'm standing and facing as this photograph is your house,
Mhm.
where you live at 34 Fairview Road? What, if anything, do you have as sort of a landmark or an item that you observe in that sort of left area of the yard?
Flagpole?
Is there a fire hydrant there as well?
Yes.
And do you see anything as far as like a box or something like that?
Yeah, I believe there was some electrical box that I don't think we ever actually knew what it was or what it did.
Fair to say all the years that you lived there, it's not something that you've utilized or even knew what it really did.
No.
Now, this particular area of the yard, in its relation to the house, was that a part of the yard that was used or utilized by the family all that much when you lived there?
No.
And that part of the yard where the fire hydrant flagpole, that is, how close is that to sort of the next door neighbors abutting the property?
It's pretty close. It's almost, I would say, on the, close to the property line.
Now, as far as from the side of the road, in between sort of curbing from the roadway and your front lawn, there's nothing there as far as a sidewalk or anything like that, is that correct?
Right.
And the curbing that's between sort of the roadway and the front lawn, how would you describe that? Is it a sharp curb, rounded curb?
It was kind of a rounded curb.
Now, with reference to your driveway, do you see that depicted in this particular photograph?
You can't really see it in the picture, no. But I mean, it's would be over here.
Thank you.
Yep.
If I could direct your attention to the next photograph that you have before you.
Mhm.
If I can have that one up on the screen as well. And again, Ms. Al, would you recognize what's up on screen?
Yes.
And this is just another photograph of your home as it was around January 2022 at 34 Fairview Road.
Yes.
And from this photograph, you see now sort of the driveway and where that is.
Yes.
And if you could just indicate to the jury sort of where in this photograph that would be.
The driveway was right here. The two garage doors, and then there was driveway right along here.
Now, in reference to that driveway, or in reference to your family at the time that lived at the house, about how many cars would there typically be when everyone's home parked in the driveway?
Could have been 4. Let me think. 1, 2, 3. I think 4.
And who would those vehicles be typically operated by, and what kind of vehicles we're talking about?
I had my car, which was a Cadillac SUV. My husband had his work car. And then we had, I think, a Ford Explorer. And then the kids were driving a Ford Escape, maybe?
All sort of bigger cars, all sort of SUVs? Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
If I could direct your attention to the next photograph. And again, what's up on the screen, is that what you have for you as the next exhibit?
Yes.
Just for the record, if you could read the number that's on that photograph now.
What are you doing?
60?
And again, what's up on the screen, is that just another depiction of your home at that time?
Yes.
Now, when you open that door and Officer Lank is there and you invite him in your house to talk, you said that you saw some cruisers, correct?
Mhm.
Where in relation to your property were the cruisers when you opened the door and something, if you could direct your attention to this photograph?
I believe they were right here, somewhere here.
If I could direct your attention to the next photograph that's in there.
Yep.
And again, the photograph that's up on the screen, is that what you have before you?
Mhm.
And again, I'm sorry to keep asking
Yes,
you this, but
yes.
if you could read the number that's on the photograph.
63.
And so exhibit 63 up on the screen, if you could describe to the jury sort of what part of your property or abutting property are we looking at?
I believe our property ended, somewhere along here.
Right about in the general area of the electrical box and fire hydrant you're talking
Yeah. Yep.
about. And that next door residence there, do you know offhand what the number was for that?
I don't. Maybe 36? I'm not
Somewhere
sure.
in the vicinity of your number 34.
Yeah.
And if I could direct your attention to the next photograph.
Mm-hmm. 64?
Thank you.
Yeah.
On face. So with respect to this photograph, as far as the sort of side door, do you see that in this photograph?
Yeah, the side door would be right here.
And there's sort of another door off to the right of the photograph, is that correct?
Yep, that door would go into the garage.
And typically, at least around this time of January, late January 2022, as far as the vehicles that you're talking about, would any of those vehicles go in the garage or what was in the garage?
The garage was a little bit cluttered, so if there was a storm coming, we would try to arrange things so we could at least maybe get one or two of the cars in there, but otherwise we didn't put the cars in the garage. Only if it was gonna, be a storm, we try to get some of them out of the driveway.
And with reference to these specific dates, January 28th and the 29th, and this specific storm, do you recall anything as far as putting vehicles in the garage on those days?
I don't, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we had maybe mine in there because I had gotten picked up that night. I'm not sure. 58.
May I approach, John?
Yeah. No. Okay.
Now, in addition, let me ask you this. At this time in January of 2022, did your family have any pets?
Yes,
And how many pets did you have?
we had one. We had a dog,
What was the dog?
Chloe.
And what type of dog was
She's a German Shepherd mix.
it? And how long had you had the dog at that point?
About 6 years, I believe.
And do you recall sort of when you got the dog, how you got, what type of, so shelter, or fair to say it's a rescue dog?
Yes.
And where did the dog typically go within nighttime? Would there be any sort of particular pattern of where the dog would sleep?
Yes. At nighttime when we went up to bed, it came up with us and it slept in our bedroom.
And at any point in time, during the time from when you returned from the waterfall to your home, where was the dog at that point?
Well, the dog had been up in the room, and I believe my husband, when we first got in, brought her down to let her out to go to the bathroom.
And when the dog went out to go to the bathroom when you lived at 34 Fairview Road, where was the dog going? How was that?
Well, she pretty much she knew the door where to go. So when she had to go, she would go to that door and she would just go out and run in the backyard and go and on her own.
So on her own, and someone would sort of stand at the back door?
Yes.
And the back door that we're talking about, what kind of door is that?
It's a regular door.
I mean, is
Like-
it a door that opens? Is it a sliding door?
Oh, yeah, no, like just a regular door, and it had, I think, a storm door, behind it.
And the backyard area of your home in 34 Fairview, when you lived there in around January 2022, how was that enclosed at all?
It was fenced in.
So dogs couldn't get out if everything's closed up in the back.
Yes, as long as the gates were shut.
And as far as that particular evening, after you returned from the waterfall, you indicated your husband let the dog out. How long a period of time was the dog outside?
I believe it was pretty quick. She went, did her business, and came back in. I think she might have walked around the kitchen for a minute or two, and then I think you just brought her back upstairs.
And to your knowledge, did Chloe the dog, did Chloe go outside at any other point over the course of that evening?
No.
Now, at some point, obviously you've moved from 34 Fairview to North.
Mhm.
Okay, she
when
says
about
the
was it
girl
in
in
relation
one
to
upstairs. Okay.
this incident of January 29th, 2022, that you
We moved in April of 2023.
and with any plans or discussions were there in reference to moving prior to January 29th?
Objection, Your Honor.
So not the specifics, but generally, not the conversation.
We had always planned to move, but it was in our plans that, kids were starting to get older. We were looking to possibly downsize. So at the end of 2021, my husband's brother had sold his house.
Objection.
No, I'm going to allow that.
My husband's brother had sold his house and got a good deal for it. It sold pretty quickly. The market was really good at that time. So we just started thinking, hey, the kids are getting older. A couple of them had already moved out. We weren't going to be able to stay in that house. It's like a 5-bedroom house. Once our kids were gone, my husband and I wouldn't have been able to maintain that. Needed a lot of work. We couldn't afford it. So we said, maybe now's the time. We should put on December.
So hold on. Next question, Mr. Lally.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
So you put it on the market, it sold, and then you moved.
Objection, leading.
The objection sustained. Ask a non-leading question.
When was it that the sale was finalized?
April of 23.
And as far as selling the house, what, if any, relationship did that have to what occurred on January 29th, 2020?
It had no relation to it. We had already had thoughts and plans of doing it before that happened.
Yeah, one moment more.
Yes.
Why are you being funny all of a sudden? Shouldn't be bothersome.
I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Little.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Albert.
Hello.
You were at the Waterfall Bar and Grill on January 29th for approximately 4.5 hours. Is that correct?
I was there from, say, 8 till about midnight.
So about 4 hours?
Yeah.
And you were there with a group of individuals, including Brian Albert, Jennifer McCabe, Matt McCabe, Julie Albert, Chris Albert, Caitlin Albert, and Tristan Morris, and then were later joined by Brian Higgins, correct?
Yes,
Okay. You testified that John O'Keefe and Karen Read joined your group around 11 p.m. Is that right?
approximately.
Over the course of those 4 hours that you were there, did you see any sort of tension whatsoever between John O'Keefe and Ms. Read?
Well, no, they were only there for an hour when I was there, but I didn't have really any interaction with them. But no, I didn't see anything.
So based on your observations, everyone appeared generally happy and in good spirits, correct?
Yep.
At any point while you were at the Waterfall Bar and Grill, did you observe Karen Read stumbling, slurring her words, or otherwise appearing to be under the influence?
I did not, but again, I never engaged in any sort of conversation with her.
Did you observe your husband and Brian Higgins engaging in sort of practice fighting techniques while you were at the Waterfall Bar and Grill?
I saw them fooling around with each other, yeah.
Your Honor, if I could show just a screenshot of the video that's been previously marked.
A screenshot of it? Sure.
May I approach the recording?
Yeah, so can you take this down just until the witness has it, please? I thought you were just showing the screenshot. You want to show it up here?
Yes.
Okay. So what are you doing
Should
with
we
it?
mark that as an exhibit? Or
I don't think there's a need to. I thought you were showing something to the juror that you were just. Okay.
if I could show you this photograph.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we will mark it for identification.
Ms. Albert, do you
So hold on, we need to. So we'll mark it for identification. So we'll take it from the witness for a minute, please.
Sorry.
We'll mark it for identification, but this is incorporated in what exhibit number?
I believe it's exhibit 53, Your Honor.
All right, just so our record's clear.
One screenshot is W for identification.
Thank you. All right, so now you can.
Your Honor, if I may, I haven't seen what the witness is looking at.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so you want to display it on the screen now, Ms. Little?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, sure, go right ahead.
Ms. Albert, do you see the two individuals sort of closest to us with their backs turned to us? Two males?
Yeah,
I know it's kind of hard to see.
yeah.
Who is the man that has just been zoomed in with the logo on the back of his sweatshirt?
I believe that's Brian Higgins.
Okay. And then the person with that sweatshirt is, you said, Brian Higgins?
I think. Yeah, it's a little hard to tell.
Or the other individual who's sitting right next to him? I know this is kind of hard to see because the number's blocking it.
Yeah,
But does that appear to be your husband to the left, kind of in a fighting stance?
yeah, I think so.
Ms. Albert, when your husband drinks, does he often
So I'm
spar-
sorry, are we taking this down or keeping it up?
Yes, Your Honor, you can take it down.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Albert, when your husband drinks, does he often get into sort of these practice sparring, practice fighting stances? Is that common for him?
Objection.
No, I'm going to allow it.
No, I don't think so.
So this type of behavior was unusual for him.
No, I think they were just fooling around. I don't think there was anything much to it.
My question was, is it unusual for you to see him sort of practice fighting?
I wouldn't call that practice fighting. I think they were just fooling around. And yeah, maybe I've seen him do that other times, but it was fooling around. They weren't practicing.
Let me put this a different way. You do
Offended.
know that your husband is a highly trained fighter, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Absolutely not.
Your husband has no fighting experience whatsoever.
A highly trained fighter? No, he's not.
He has boxing experience, correct?
Objection.
So I'm going to see you at sidebar on this, please.
Let it in. Stop it, kitty. Do, 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 do. They not like us. They not like us. They not like us. Do, 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 do. They not like us. They not like us. They don't walk like us.
So I'm going to see you at sidebar on this, please.
Ms. Albert, your husband has boxing experience, correct?
Yes.
He also has fighting experience from his training in the military, correct?
I don't know what fighting experience from the military means. I mean, he was in the Marine Corps. He was out of the Marine Corps in 1992.
But he had training through the Marine Corps and through the Boston Police Department with fighting and defensive tactics, correct?
I assume so.
Well, you gotta have time.
Ms. Albert, you testified earlier that you left the waterfall around, I believe, 11:45. Is that correct?
No, I said I think closer to 12.
Okay. Can I show you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 53? Your Honor, could I have permission to publish Exhibit 53?
Okay.
And Mr. Bates, if I could have you start the video at 5:14. you could pause. This video,
No, I don't.
do you see the woman that's in the lower quadrant? Do you recognize that individual at all?
I don't. It's so I can't tell who that is.
I know this is not the best video, so I'll play a little bit more and see if you might be able to recognize it. You don't recognize who that individual is?
I mean, it could be me. I'm not sure. I can't really tell.
All right, so this is an instance where the video has to speak for itself, right?
Understood, Your Honor. You could play just a little bit longer. Pause. Did you recognize the woman that just sort of walked forward?
Yes. Now seeing the coat, I recognize that it's me.
Thank you. And did you see what was in your hand when you walked by?
I don't.
You could play just a little bit more. Ms. Albert, you said you appear to be holding something.
Yes.
What is that?
Looks like a can.
And what time is that video taken?
11:58.
That would have been approximately the time that you were leaving the Waterfall Bar and Grill.
Yep.
You guys had a fun night. It looks like you kind of grabbed the white claw. You're about to leave. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You testified earlier that you got home.
So can we turn the lights back on and, okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Let me switch gears a little bit. You testified earlier that there are 4 cars that are usually parked in the driveway at 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
And you listed at least the make and model of about 3 of those vehicles.
Yep.
Do you recall that?
Yep.
You said there's a Cadillac that usually is parked in your driveway, there's a Ford Explorer, and there's a Ford Escape, correct?
Yep.
But you also said there's a 4th car. That's your husband's work vehicle. correct?
Yes. Yep.
What type of car is that?
That's a Ford Edge.
A black Ford Edge.
Yes. Yep.
Is there a reason that you didn't want to state or commit to that in front of this jury when you originally testified?
No, there's no reason. I was just trying to think of all the different cars. We have 5 kids. We've had a lot of different vehicles. I was just saying it as I remembered it.
News coverage in this case has revealed the importance of a Ford Edge.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
In your mind, a Ford Edge has significance to this case, doesn't it?
Objection, Your Honor.
No, can you answer that? Does a Ford Edge have significance in this case too?
I've heard it talked
Right,
about.
Kevin.
Yeah.
He's highly trained. He's a martial
And what you heard
artist.
talked
He's
about is that
he
an
had
eyewitness-
boxing.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to stop you on that. The objection sustained.
Ms. Albert, you know there's significance to the Ford Edge, and that's the one
Objection,
thing
Your Honor.
that you did not mention in your initial testimony, correct?
So I'm going to allow that question. Can you answer that?
I just was trying to think of all the different makes and models. I did not purposely say that.
Where did your husband strike up?
She's getting offended.
You testified earlier that you weren't sure exactly where Brian Higgins parked that night when he arrived at your house, correct?
Right.
And you said, I'm not sure, but then you gave a pretty vivid description about him being parked, you think, in front of the house by the mailbox facing away from your residence, correct?
Right. Yep.
Is that statement something that's from your personal recollection or for something that you discussed with other witnesses in this case?
No, it's from my personal recollection of what I'm pretty sure I remembered. He pulled in first. He backed out so we could pull in, and then I'm pretty sure he pulled out and parked along the curb where the mailbox was.
So you haven't discussed that statement with any other witnesses in this case?
I don't remember. I don't
Kind of
think so.
fishy, because everybody says he parked right there.
You testified earlier that when you arrived at 34 Fairview, your son, Brian Albert Jr. was there, Julie Nagel was there, Sarah Levinson was there, and that your nephew, Colin Albert, was also present, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe sort of your interaction with Colin Albert when you walked in the door?
It was literally, I was coming in. I think we almost bumped into each other. I said, I didn't realize he was there. I said, hey, what are you doing here? He said, oh, I just come by to see Brian, but my ride's on its way. I'm about to leave. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, all right, see ya. And he just kind of continued on. I think he must have went out the door.
So when you first testified, I believe you stated that you saw Colin seated at the table with Brian Jr., correct?
When I testified, when?
Earlier today.
I don't believe I said
And
that.
shortly after he got up.
No, I don't believe I said that.
You never said that he was initially seated with Brian Jr.
No, I'm pretty sure I said when I walked in, I immediately saw him.
So when you walked in the door, you're saying he was already leaving to go get his ride, correct?
He was standing and looked to me like he was getting ready for someone who was coming to pick him up.
Got it. And when you pulled up with Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, that all happened around the same time, correct?
Yes.
And you have never mentioned seeing any other vehicle waiting outside the house for Colin when you arrived, correct?
No.
You didn't observe another vehicle outside the house?
No, I'm not saying he said to me, my ride's almost here. I'm leaving. So I didn't see anything outside about his ride.
So you didn't see
Pulled
your
outside
niece
that night?
pull
Yeah.
up.
So he sort of walked out the door before his ride arrived.
Because your nephew
I don't know if he went and stood and waited by the door. I came in the house and like I said, I immediately said hello to my son, his friends. I went and started doing my cleaning and I didn't really pay attention. But I assume he left because I never saw him again.
So you're not sure if he was sort of standing by the front door?
I'm not sure. I mean, he could have been standing there waiting. He said his ride was about to be there.
Okay. But you didn't see him.
I did not see him leave.
You testified that your German Shepherd, Chloe, was also at the house when you arrived home on January 29th, correct?
Yes.
She's a large German Shepherd.
Yep. About 70 pounds.
She's not great with strangers.
I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that it's kind of a poorly worded question. Would you say that she's good with strangers?
I'd say she's fine with strangers.
Fine with strangers. Okay.
Yep.
She's definitely not good with other animals, is she?
No, she did not like other dogs.
Well, your
Chloe
husband.
actually has a well-documented fight history, doesn't she?
Objection.
Well, your husband, when he gets on the stand, he's going to say, no, she wasn't good with strangers. So there you have that. And then they're going to talk about your dog's bite history.
Does she?
With dogs. A couple dogs, yes.
Ms. Albert, she also has a bite history with humans, doesn't she?
Objection.
Ask that differently.
Ms. Albert, Chloe has injured other humans, hasn't she?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
In one incident in May of 22, when she got out and was fighting with another dog, the woman whose dog it was tried to break up the two dogs. And while she was trying to break up the two dogs, she got injured.
There were actually 2 individuals who were injured in that incident, correct?
Well, there was 2 women, but I believe just one woman, from what I understand, had an injury from Chloe. The other one may have fallen or something, but I'm not sure 100%.
There were 2 women who were actually taken to the hospital after that incident, correct?
Yes, a neighbor had called the police or called an ambulance just to make sure they were okay.
And you mentioned that Chloe had actually escaped from the backyard
Mm-hmm.
in that incident.
Yes,
And that happens from time to time in your house, correct?
it had happened a few times, yes.
And Mr. Albert let Chloe out when he arrived that night, correct?
Yep.
Could she have gotten out? Could she have snuck out?
Ms. Albert, you don't have Chloe anymore, do you?
Nope.
In May of 2022, 4
Where
months
is she?
after Mr.
Where's
Oakey's
the
death,
dog?
you got rid of your family dog of 6 years.
Objection.
Oh, is that true? Is that when you got rid of your dog?
I did not get rid of my dog. I rehomed my dog.
Your
That's
dog is
still
no longer
getting
in
rid
the
of your
area?
dog.
No, but I know where she is. She's in Vermont. And that previous testimony, that information has all been given. So if she was ever needed for anything, we know where she is.
Was that testimony given to the defense?
Probably.
Was I present at the hearing where you testified about this?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Your Honor, can you approach?
Sure.
Yeah, because that didn't happen. Oh, look at her. She's getting flustered. Did you see that eye roll and the shaking of the head? Oh, she's getting flustered, baby. See, look at that.
Thank you.
Okay.
She's getting pissed.
Ms. Albert, you're aware that we actually sought records regarding Chloe and her bite history, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Was it from this witness?
It was.
That's a yes or no from there. Yes or no?
Well, it was from a custodian.
Okay. I'm going to sustain the objection.
You got to ask it from him.
Ms. Albert,
Apparently, if
I
they're
wanna direct your
letting
attention back
her
to early
bite
morning, January
people and,
Mhm.
you know,
you testified that everyone who arrived at your house
I
just
would've
after
got her
midnight was
training.
generally gathered at the table in the kitchen area, correct?
Yes.
And over the course of that evening, you had never heard any
and
sort
not
of
keeping her on a
disruption
leash. I
outside, correct?
mean,
No.
You didn't hear a crash.
There needs to be an answer.
Sorry. No.
You certainly never heard any screaming or yelling.
No.
And you never heard the screech of any brakes outside, correct?
Correct.
Okay. On July 20th, 2023, you testified before a grand jury, and Mr. Lally was not there, correct? And Idiot McLaughlin was also not there, correct?
Okay.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you were specifically asked during the course of that hearing where everyone was positioned.
this is
around
the
table.
federal grand jury
Remember
they're
that
talking
sort
about.
of line of questioning?
Yeah.
And you explained that your sister Jennifer was seated next to Brian Jr.
Objection. Is there a question?
We're getting that question, so go ahead.
You were very specific about kind of how people were seated at that table that night. Do you remember that testimony? You explained that Jennifer was seated next to Brian Jr. and Matt McCabe was across from him. Do you recall that?
Yep.
But when you were asked where your husband Brian Higgins were positioned at the table, you weren't able to place them there. Isn't that true?
Because I don't believe they ever sat at that table.
And what you told the grand jury during that hearing was that at least at one point they had left the room and they were outside of your view, correct?
The federal grand
I'm not
jury.
sure I said that.
You told the jury that you were cleaning and you weren't sure where they went, correct?
Well, initially when I first came in the house and I was doing my thing, I don't remember exactly where
And you
they were.
they told the grand jury that you don't recall seeing them at the table, but you don't recall where they went because you were kind of focused on cleaning, correct?
Right.
And there was one point at which you said that you joined them in family.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. But while you were cleaning, you said, I don't really know what they were doing, but they weren't there, correct?
Yes.
So you recall your husband and Brian Higgins left your view and went to some other place in the house that evening, correct?
They could have.
Ms. Albert, how many steps is it from the front door to the basement?
steps.
Ooh, she's getting
It's a totally
somewhere
question.
good.
That's totally crazy. When you open the front door of your house,
Uh-huh.
how
Because
many
that's
steps
where
do
they
you take to
think
the door
uh,
to the basement?
the fight happened was
4 or 5.
downstairs. And then they drug him out and left him
You
in the
testified
cell
earlier
later.
that Brian Higgins left 3430 first, correct?
Yes.
Then Matt McCabe, Jennifer McCabe, Sarah Levinson, and Julie Nagel left together, correct?
Yes.
And the very last person to leave your house that night, you said today under oath, was your daughter Caitlin, correct?
Yes.
And you said she left her house close to 2 a.m. Is that right?
Yep.
Ms. Albert, that's not what you told Sergeant Link on January 29th, 2022, is it?
I don't recall what I told him.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at your statement, Sergeant Link?
Sure.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Look, she's disgusted. Her face is like, oh, she's disgusted by these questions. That doesn't come off good, lady, when you're making faces and shit.
Okay, I'd like to direct your attention to page 2 of the supplemental.
Would you show the prosecutor, please?
Yes. Just go ahead, Mr. President.
Your Honor, may we approach this briefly?
Okay.
He doesn't like when they're impeaching the witness. He hates it. Freaking hates it. Okay.
And are you going to clarify that, Ms. Little? Statement?
Oh, interview was conducted.
Yes.
And you said she left her house close to 2 a.m. Is that right?
Yep.
Ms. Albert, that's not what you told Sergeant Link on January 29th, 2022, is it?
I don't recall. Yes.
And you said she left her house.
And are you going to clarify that, Ms. Little? Statement?
Oh, how can I approach, Your Honor?
Again? Look at her. This
Sorry,
is
this is
just
the police report containing interview was conducted, correct? With Sergeant Link on January 29th, is that right?
Yes, the morning of.
Thank you. Have you had a chance to?
Yes,
is
yeah.
Is your recollection refreshed?
Yep.
Isn't it true that you told Sergeant Link that your daughter left at 12:15 on January 29th?
I do not recall saying that. I've maintained in every interview testimony I've had that she was the last to leave. So I don't know, it was very confusing that morning. Officer Lank was trying to ask everybody, where had you been? Where had you been? When did you get here? When did you leave? I don't know if somehow it was misconstrued, but I've always maintained that Caitlin was the last to leave.
Understood. And that's because Sergeant Link was.
Yeah, they would have.
At the same time, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting around the table. It was a little, everyone was,
I mean,
we're all
they
in shock
say
and
that they
it's a little
rehomed the
confusing.
dog.
It's more of a conversation than an
They
interview.
could have had her put
I guess
down,
you could say that.
in all honesty.
Yes.
I don't know. They said that the dog was readily available for the defense to go find, but
Do you deny saying that to Sergeant Link?
the
I don't believe I
defense
said that.
didn't have to. Like,
I think maybe someone was saying, oh, Jen and Matt got there at 12:15. He misunderstood. It got misconstrued later in his notes. But I've always said,
I mean,
And- and
they went as far as doing, the swabs on his arm, but they didn't do it on his arm, or they didn't collect tissue samples from his arm. They did it on his sweatshirt, and it came back with pig DNA, not dog DNA. But at the same time, like he could have, like anything could have been on that sweatshirt. You know what I mean? So it's just weird. It's just weird. And, it's pretty funny that, the homeowner's brother owns a pizza shop. That has a lot of pig ingredients. Dog treats have pig ingredients. I mean, it's weird. All because they're trying to defend their witnesses rather than proving that she did it. This case is dumb.
other time I was questioned that my daughter was the last one to leave. So I don't,
So you weren't trying to protect your daughter.
no,
You were forthcoming about always providing the troopers with information about the individuals who were present that night.
yes.
Ms. Albert, you and your family discussed this case at length before your interviews with law enforcement, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Did you?
Of course, we discussed the case, but
You're
just
not
everything that was
supposed to
going
as
on,
witnesses.
trying to figure out what happened.
You're not supposed to as witnesses.
And you testified that you spoke to Trooper Proctor on February 3rd, 2022. Is that correct?
Yes.
That would be 6 days after this hearing. Is that right?
Yep.
And that's the the very first time that you were ever interviewed by Massachusetts State Police?
Yes. Yep.
Aside from that sort of conversation you described with Sergeant Knight.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
When
I
you
mean,
spoke
why
to Trooper
you-
Proctor on
why
February 3rd,
you're
2022,
saying it
you left a lot of
twice,
names out of individuals who were present at your house on the morning of January 29th, 2022. Isn't that correct?
I'm not sure who was left out.
Did you tell Trooper Proctor that your son, Brian Albert Jr., was on that night?
Was home the night of his birthday, or what do you mean?
Yes, the night of his birthday.
Oh yeah, he was home with his friends.
Did you tell that to Trooper Proctor?
I assume I did.
So if it wasn't in his report, that would have been his mistake.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Did you tell Trooper Proctor your daughter, Caitlin Albert, returned home?
Another
without
mistake in the report.
I believe so.
Did you tell Trooper Proctor that your son had 2 female friends at your house when you arrived?
I believe so.
And notably, did you tell Trooper Proctor that Colin Albert was present at your house?
You know, I probably didn't, because anytime I was questioned about who was there, to me it was who was there afterwards, hanging out from like the 12:15 point on. I didn't consider Colin as being there because I literally
left out.
crossed paths with him. He left, and I didn't consider him being a part of the group that was there.
Were you asked who was at the house that night?
I assume he asked that, but I also didn't mention the girls, the people that my son had previous, because I didn't consider them as part of the people that I was with when I got home.
You never mentioned Colin Albert to Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
And you never mentioned Colin Albert to Sergeant
Yeah,
Lang.
try to
Correct.
distance yourself from it.
Ms. Albert, you knew that if you gave Trooper Proctor the name of your nephew, that he would have to interview him, correct?
Objection.
All right, I'm going to sustain that objection.
You didn't want your
Look at
kids
her.
or your nephew to tell the
She's
police
so
what they saw, what they heard, and what they did.
disheveled.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Is that true?
That is not true.
But you never told Trooper Proctor about Colin Albert.
I didn't mention Colin because I didn't consider him as part of the group that we were hanging out with after the waterfall, because he left as soon as I walked in. I didn't even think of him.
Didn't even think of him.
No.
Yeah, keep on.
Didn't think it any important for the state troopers.
You don't need to
investigating this case
over-explain.
and those individuals who were leaving at the precise time that Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed arrived at the house.
Objection.
Sustained.
Oh, she's
Ms. Albert,
so
what's the first thing
disheveled.
you remember waking up to on the morning of January 29th?
My sister brought me into my bedroom.
Bombing
Your
into
Honor,
your
if you could
bedroom.
approach.
Okay, approach sidebar. Or you? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, this is a pretty long sidebar here.
Yes.
Permission to publish?
Sure.
Wait, hold on.
Ms. Albert, where is your bedroom located?
Do you want me to show it?
Yes, if you could explain.
Right up here.
There we go.
So, Ms. Little, we're going to mark what you have in your hand for identification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Albert, I'd like to show you a photograph which purports to be.
Just show her the photograph.
Ms. Albert, do you recognize that photograph?
Yep.
What is it?
It's a picture of my house.
Does it appear to be generally to scale?
Yep.
Do you recognize sort of the flagpole in the yard,
Yes.
the house?
Yep.
The driveway?
Mhm.
And that looks
Yes.
accurate. And that looks accurate in terms of scale, correct?
Yes.
Permission to publish?
Sure.
Ms. Albert, where is your bedroom located?
Do you want me to show it?
Yes, if you could explain.
Right up here.
So your bedroom is in the upper left-hand quadrant, correct?
Mhm. Yes.
The far left window, that's your bedroom window.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep. The two of them.
So on January 29th, you had 2 bedroom windows on the left side of the house that were facing the front lawn where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, correct?
You didn't
Yes.
see no lights and didn't hear
You're
no
aware that
sirens,
Ms.
huh?
Reed, Jennifer McCabe, and Carrie Roberts arrived outside your property around 6:04 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Didn't hear
Did you hear any
Karen
fire
Reed
trucks that
freaking
morning?
screaming.
I did not.
Did you hear any ambulances?
I did not.
You didn't see the flashing lights of emergency vehicles outside your bedroom window?
I did not. My blinds were shut and my curtains were closed. I did not see anything.
You testified the very first thing you remember was Jennifer McCabe waking you up in your bedroom.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry, just to keep track, are we going to take this down now, Ms. Little? Or keep the lights on? I just want to keep track of that.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you.
okay.
What time is that?
I thought it was somewhere between 6 and 6:30.
Can I have a moment?
Sure.
She's like, just get me off this fucking sedan.
If I told you it was around 6:45 based on video surveillance footage, would you quarrel with that?
If that's what you say.
Okay. Does that sound about right to you?
Yep. I initially from the beginning just said 6:30. I wasn't quite sure.
Ms. Albert, what about the 2 calls that you received from your sister at 6:07 and 6:08 a.m. which were answered?
I never answered any phone calls from my sister that morning.
You're aware that the Cellbrite records indicated that you answered 2 calls from your sister.
Objection, Your Honor.
The,
At 6:08 a.m.
the objection sustained.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Okay.
Bum, bum, bum. Your messy little
You can take a look at this
sister.
report.
She's like, "Fuck,
Ms. Albert, you received
when is this
If I could,
gonna
again,
be
if I could
over?"
just see what's being shown to the witness before. Thank you. May we approach?
Okay.
Oh my God, Lally, Gaggin, Lally.
Okay, you can give it back to Ms. Albert,
Thank you.
and you can go back and ask the question, and let's see where we go with this, okay?
Ms. Albert, do you recognize this document? Do
Recognize it?
you know what it is?
Well, yeah. I see what it is.
Does it refresh your recollection as the 2 calls you received on the morning of January 29th?
It says here 2 calls were placed.
Okay, but don't read it, but you were asked a specific question, so if you could answer the question, please.
Does that refresh your recollection to the 2 calls you received from your sister on the morning of January 29th?
She may have placed those phone calls to me, but I never answered them.
You received a call from Jennifer McCabe on January 29th at 6:07:42 a.m. that lasted for 9 seconds, correct?
She may have placed a phone call to me. I never answered it. I never spoke to her that morning.
You also received a second call from your sister at 6:08:17 a.m. that lasted for 7 seconds, correct?
Objection.
Even if,
Go ahead and answer that.
even if,
It says that, but I
which
never answered a
voicemail
phone
it
call from my
still
sister
would've
Jennifer
said
that morning.
next.
You're aware that cell phone companies have what are called tolling records, correct? That show if there's a voicemail or something of that nature.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Ms. Albert, it's your testimony here today that you never spoke to your sister that morning.
I never spoke to my sister on the phone that morning.
Who else was in your bedroom that morning?
Me and my husband.
You and Brian Albert were the only 2 individuals who could have answered those calls that morning, correct?
There's only 2 people in the room, besides the dog.
And at 6:07 a.m., someone had a 9-second call with Jennifer McCabe, correct?
Objection.
All right, sustained. And you've got more for this witness, I imagine, Ms. Little?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so we'll take a luncheon recess, folks. It's 1 o'clock.
I can't.
Sorry.
Goodbye.
I do, but I don't necessarily need it. It's probably in there.
Madam Court Reporter, do you need me for anything? Okay. Ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, before we start, Exhibit S, which was marked for identification, I believe the proper foundation is laid. I'd ask.
So let's not do that from there. Let me see it, please.
Sure.
Do we have S, S's in Sam, or X?
Identification.
S's in Sam?
Yes.
So they're gonna have him on for an hour. Next is the homeowner.
Why don't you come to sidebar, folks?
Oh my God, lady.
Your Honor, the parties have stipulated that Exhibit X is a graphic representation of 34 Fairview.
Yeah, not a photo.
Not a photo.
Okay, sure. Now you can approach the witness if you, oh, you just want to put it into evidence now? Okay. So that will be our next exhibit. Madam Court Reporter? Thank you.
You actually need it.
May I approach?
Yes.
She's like, just, can I get off this motherfucker?
Ms. Albert, you testified that Jennifer McCabe woke you up around 6:45 a.m., correct?
I believe I said between 6 and 6:30, but could have been
That
6.
was what woke you up, correct?
Yes.
She obviously had access to the house.
Yes.
The door wasn't locked.
Nope.
That's sort of typical practice for you.
Yeah, it was just sometimes with the kids, the last one in supposed to lock it. They didn't, you know, It just wasn't always locked.
And inside your house, you had plenty of blankets and other items that have been comfort to a man laying in the snow, correct?
Yes.
So as to that form, I'm going to sustain the objection. You can ask the question a different way, Ms. Little.
Ms. Albert, you had blankets inside of your house that could have helped someone who's freezing outside.
Objection.
So I'm going to sustain the objection. You can ask a shorter form of that question.
Oh my lord!
Ms. Albert, you had blankets in the house, correct?
It doesn't look good when you're making faces like
you were
that,
also lying next to
lady.
a first responder.
Objection.
That morning, correct?
You can answer that.
Yes.
And neither you nor your husband came outside to help John, correct?
We did not go outside because we had no idea what was going on outside. We were sound asleep until my sister came into my bedroom.
No further questions.
Okay. Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Here we go with this bullshit. Look at her. She's
On
just
to,
so pissed
phone
off.
calls from your sister Jennifer McCabe that morning shortly after 6 a.m. Did those phone calls wake you up?
No.
Did you answer those phone calls?
No.
Did you speak to Jennifer McCabe on the phone prior to her, or at any point on that morning prior to her coming into your room?
I did not.
And you were shown something that's a Cellbrite extraction report, correct?
Yes.
And not just that specific one, but have you ever seen any Cellbrite extraction report before in your life?
No.
So fair to say you don't know how to interpret the data that's on there?
No.
Fair to say that you don't know whether or not an answered call or something that's listed as answered was something that was actually answered or went voicemail.
Correct.
Now,
Here he goes, distancing her from the lie.
regard to your dog, Chloe.
Mhm.
Following that incident in May of 2022,
At least
what, if
she didn't
anything, did
say
you
it was a
and your
good
husband do
answer.
with regard to the person that had been bitten?
Well, we had gone over to their house to apologize for what had happened and, offered to pay any bills, that they may have had for any injury to the dog or anything. And then after that, we just decided that we thought the best thing to do would be to try to rehome it because I just didn't want something like that to happen again.
And can you explain to the jury sort of what are the steps that you took in the process of rehoming your dog?
Well, initially I had called a bunch of shelters and they were pretty much telling me that it would be hard to rehome her if she was dog aggressive and they would probably have to put her down. I didn't want to do that. The family, we love the dog. And so I didn't want to do that. So I reached out to the woman in Texas who we got the dog from to see if she could help. And she said, she couldn't take it back, but she would try to help me out. So she ended up finding a woman who lived in Vermont. And she lived alone. She had a big property. It seemed like a good fit. She wanted to take Chloe and we made arrangements and I went and met this woman halfway and I gave her Chloe.
And what, if any, conversations or contact have you had with that woman in Vermont since rehoming your dog?
For a few months after I,
Objection, Your Honor.
So not the substance of it, but
And shout out to her for not wanting to put
yes,
the
I
dog,
did for a few months back and forth.
but still.
Now, with reference to Chloe, when your sister Jennifer McCabe comes into your bedroom hysterical that morning of January 29th, was Chloe in the room at the time?
Yes.
Now, you were asked some questions about the evening or the early morning when people had come from the waterfall back to your home, correct?
Mhm.
And at some point, you were cleaning and Mr. Higgins and your husband were out of your line of sight, is that correct?
Yes.
How long a period of time were we talking?
It wasn't very long, a couple minutes. Wasn't watching where everybody was and what everybody was doing.
Fair to say, relatively short period of time.
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Briefly, Your Honor.
okay. So you need to take this down, sir. Thank you. There was something that was just up there. Go ahead.
Ms. Albert, you never received any voicemails from Jennifer McCabe about January 29th, did you?
Not that I'm aware of.
You also have never produced, pursuant to our request, any documentation about the whereabouts of Chloe.
The objection sustained. I'm going to start that question. Disregard the question. Well, questions aren't evidence, so we can leave it on the record, but the objection sustained.
You've never turned over any information about the location of Chloe. That's the pendency of this case, have you?
Objection, Your Honor, may we approach?
I'm just going to sustain the objection.
Have you ever provided information about the whereabouts of Chloe to the Commonwealth in this case?
Yes, I believe I have.
You have.
I believe so.
When did you do that?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
Supposedly, this trial, they found Chloe so they could do bite impressions. I doubt they did, but hey, whatever. Why didn't they do it on the first trial? And then there's like an hour of his testimony after this. And then we're done. And I'll be back with day
Okay,
10
thank you very much. All
tomorrow.
right, Ms. Albert, you are all set.
Thank you.
She's like, thank God I'm out of
Your
here.
next witness, Mr. Langley.
Yes, Your Honor. On the Commonwealth call, excuse me, Mr. Brian Albert to the stand.
Okay, I'm going to smoke. I'll still be here. I'll be in the judge. Hit the light. Share the light. Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear the evidence you give the court during the case hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Your Honor, and good afternoon to the jury.
Good afternoon.
So could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Sure, it's Brian, last name Albert, Albert.
And where do you live, sir?
I live in Norwood, Massachusetts.
How long have you lived in Norwood?
Approximately a year.
And who, if anyone, you live in Norwood with?
My wife, Nicole, and my son, Brian, and my son, Brendan.
Ask you just a little bit about your family as far as, let me start with yourself and your wife, Nicole. How long have the two of you been married?
Approximately 29 years.
And were you together for a period of time prior to getting married?
Yes, we've known each other since we were 13, 14 years old.
And do you have any siblings, sir?
I do.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have 5 brothers and 1 sister.
And if you could, just as far as, are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest of 7 years.
And as far as your brothers and sisters are concerned, what are their names? And if you could rank them sort of by.
Sure. The next sibling after me is my sister Kathleen. Then I have a brother Chris, a brother Kevin, a brother Keith, a brother Brendan, and a brother Timmy.
And you and your wife, Nicole, do you have children of your own?
Yes.
And how many children?
5.
And how old are they?
So my oldest daughter is 29. My son Brian is 25. My son Brendan turns 23 today. And I have twins, or we have twins that are 20 years old. Caitlin's 28. I'm sorry, I said 29.
Now, prior to living at your address in Norwood, where did you live before that?
Canton, Mass.
And how long have you lived in Canton?
Approximately in the house on Fairview Road, approximately 11 years.
And in total, about how long have you been a resident in Canton before moving to Norwood?
Approximately 45 years.
And that address, that's 34 Fairview Road, is that right?
Yes.
And what kind of relationship did that home or that residence have to your family before you and your wife and the kids moved?
My parents had lived at that residence prior to us.
So you spent some of your childhood in that house as well?
Yes.
And do you work, sir?
I did, retired now. Retired.
What did you retire
from? Boston Police Department.
And how long were you a member of the Boston Police Department?
Approximately 30 years.
And within the Boston Police Department, were you assigned to any sort of specific unit or special duties?
My last assignment, is that what you're referring to? Yes. My last assignment was the Boston Police Fugitive Unit.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2020. Do you recall that day?
Yes.
And do you recall what day of the week that was?
The 28th, I believe, was a Friday.
And when you first got up on the 28th, where were you at that?
On the 28th, I was in New York City.
And why had you gone to New York?
So I went to New York for a funeral of a New York City police officer who was killed in the line of duty.
And about what time or what day did you go down to New York for that?
We went down the day before, so I believe that was Thursday.
Recall how it was that you got down there?
Yes, I flew to New York.
And when you say we, who, if anyone, went with you on that trip to New York?
I flew with a friend and a coworker named Eddie Hernandez.
So another Boston police officer?
Yes. And
down in New York at that funeral, were there other members of law enforcement that you knew or were familiar with and working?
Yes, there were thousands of police officers that went to the funeral.
And included within those people, you mentioned you have a brother Kevin, is that correct?
Yes.
Is he a police officer as well?
He is.
And where is he?
He's a detective in Canton, Massachusetts.
And was he down at this funeral as well?
He was.
And do you know a gentleman by the name of Brian Higgins?
Yes.
And was Brian Higgins at this funeral service as well?
Yes, he was.
And how is it that you know Brian Higgins?
So I know Brian Higgins initially from work, a professional relationship. I've known him known of him for 10 or 15 years. And then the past few years, more recently, we worked together on a closer basis, and I became better friends with him.
And fair to say that when you became better friends with him, you also sort of socialized with him outside work?
Yes.
Now, as far as your return trip from New York, what, if anything, happened with him?
On the return trip from New York, we drove back.
Why did you drive versus fly back from New York?
So that weekend there was anticipated snowstorm, and I believe the flight that we were taking with JetBlue may have even been canceled. And Brian Higgins was leaving in a vehicle that morning. So we ended up driving, or after the funeral, we ended up driving with him.
And so it's yourself, Mr. Higgins, and then who, if anyone else, went with you on the drive back to Massachusetts?
Eddie Hernandez and my brother Kevin.
And when you arrived back in Massachusetts, where was it sort of specifically that you went first?
I initially went to the Charlestown to pick up my vehicle.
Where was your vehicle parked in Charlestown?
It was at a police station, Charlestown Station. It's a satellite station located in Charlestown.
And that was in reference to the proximity to the airport, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that what Logan that you flew out of and intended to fly back into?
Logan Airport, yes.
And after you were dropped off with your vehicle, what kind of vehicle was that?
That was a Ford Edge,
Was that a personal vehicle or work?
work vehicle.
And so you get dropped back off at your work vehicle. Where did you go?
So from Charlestown, I drove back towards the Canton area, and I met Brian Higgins at a restaurant bar called the Hillside.
Is that in Canton as well?
I believe so. It's on the Canton-Milton line. I believe it sits in Canton.
And what was the purpose of you and Mr. Higgins going?
After the drive home, he asked if I wanted to get some food and stop off, and I said yes.
And if you know about what time was it that you got to the Hillside with Mr. Higgins?
I want to say around 9:30, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure.
When you arrived there, what did you do?
So we went into the establishment and had a drink and hung out for a while.
And did you order any food there?
I did not. I believe Brian did, though.
And while you were at the Hillside with Mr. Higgins, what, if any, communication did you receive from your wife, Nicole?
So around that time, I talked to my wife, I think more than once, and she had let me know that her and a few people were at another location in Canton, and she had asked if I wanted to come by and see them.
What was that other location?
That other location was the Waterfall.
Is that an establishment you were familiar
Yeah,
with?
they're all
Yes.
bald. They all smack their
Sometimes.
teeth.
I've been there before,
or
yes.
smack their,
And so you drove then from the Hillside to the Waterfall?
Yes.
About how long a drive is that?
Maybe 7 minutes, between less than 10 minutes.
And so as you're going on that drive, the snow that was anticipated coming in, had that anything related to that started yet?
No, at that time, I don't recall any snow.
But this
And
is
in
the
relation to
homeowner.
the Waterfall, where did you park?
In the parking lot for the Waterfall, which is adjacent to the door to go inside. So it's to the left if you're looking at the building from Washington Street.
And when you come into, now, when you left the Hillside, Mr. Higgins stayed there?
Yes, he stayed.
And when you came into the Waterfall, who, if anyone, was there?
So when I walked in, I saw my wife, my oldest daughter, Caitlin. I saw my brother, Chris, his wife, Julie, my brother-in-law, Matt, and my sister-in-law, Jen.
And your brother-in-law, Matt, and your sister-in-law, Jen, their last name is McCabe, is that right?
Yes.
And if you could just explain to the jury sort of how you were related as far as what your name was.
So my brother, Chris's wife is Julie, and then Nicole's sister is Jen, and then Jen's husband is Matt McCabe.
And is it fair to say that you've probably known Jennifer McCabe about as long as you've known your wife, Nicole?
Yes, and she was a little kid, maybe 6, 7 years old.
And you see these people, and where are they sort of situated in the Waterfall?
So there was a high top table kind of in the front area as you walk in, kind of in the middle of the room, and everybody was just kind of around the high
I
top
wonder
table.
how he's known.
And what, if anything,
Wait, hold
was there
on.
as far as live entertainment at the Waterfall that night?
He's known his wife's sister longer than his wife. He met her. He knew her at 6 or 7 years old. Well, how old are you, motherfucker? How old are you? Are you like 10, 20 years older than fucking them or what? Jesus. Were you a kid yourself? Or were you an adult? Because that's weird. Okay. Anyway.
There was a band playing there.
And with reference to people that you've just spoken, as far as your wife and your daughter specifically, were they at the high top table closer to the band or further away?
So they were on the side of the table that's, I guess, closer to the door as you come in. And then there were other people on the opposite side of the table that was closer to the bar area.
And after you came into the Waterfall, went up to the group of your family, what did you order anything? What did you do?
Yeah, I kind of just said hi to everybody. I don't recall exactly, but I'm sure I ordered a drink. And then just kind of hung out with family and friends.
And following your arrival, who, if anyone else, showed up and eventually sort of joined the group?
There was another couple at the table. I don't know if they were there initially when I walked in, but there was another couple at the table whom I believed were there before I got there, but I just don't know what the names were.
Do you know how they were related to your group?
I don't. I think they're friends with Jen and Matt, but I'm not 100% sure.
And where were they situated in reference to where your wife and your daughter were?
So they were, I believe, to the right of this pretty large high top table.
So towards the other end of the table?
Yes.
And if you recall, what were you drinking?
Yes, there was high tops.
I don't recall.
Yes, there
I
was
usually drink beer, Mick Ultra, but I can't remember that night what I was drinking.
Now, following your arrival there and you meet up with the family, were there other friends or family that eventually showed up at this establishment and joined your group?
Yes.
And who were they, sir?
So after I was there, maybe about a half hour, Brian Higgins arrived at the location.
And If you recall, what if any sort of communication did you have with Mr. Higgins, or how did Mr. Higgins know to come to the waterfall specifically?
Because while we were at the hillside, I had mentioned that I was going to be leaving to go to the waterfall to see my family who was already there. And I invited him to come by if he wanted to.
And at any point in time, sort of throughout the course of the day, yourself and Mr. Higgins, you had each other's sort of information and cell numbers, things like that?
Yes.
And at any point in time throughout the course of the day or the evening, did you have occasion to text or phone call or anything with Mr. Higgins?
Yes.
Now, after Mr. Higgins arrives, who, if anyone else, came into waterfall and joined you?
Probably after about a half hour later from Brian Higgins arriving, John O'Keefe came into the waterfall with the defendant.
And that would have been probably about 11 o'clock, is that correct?
Yes.
Why do you guys call?
And,
You know, you
John
can
O'Keefe,
call her
you
Karen.
did tell
Quit,
Jerry,
quit trying to
well, first, did you know John
dehumanize her.
So I knew John O'Keefe, but not well. I had only met him 2 times prior to that night. But I knew him to be a Boston cop, and I knew of him. And I knew some things about him.
And as far as
Why are you
Boston Police
stuttering,
Department, it's a very
Stanley?
large department, would you agree with that?
Yes.
And about how many members or how many people on Boston?
Depending on the year, I mean, sometimes it's upwards of 2,000.
And through the course of your work over the decades that you worked with the Boston Police, did you ever work with or have any professional sort of interaction with John O'Keefe?
No, I don't remember working with him directly within the Boston Police Department.
Were you aware of sort of what his role was and what he did within the Boston Police?
Yes, I knew where he worked.
And where do you?
I believe he worked at the SORI unit, which is the sex offender registry unit.
And you mentioned just briefly before that you had heard of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
What is it that you had heard?
Well, I knew him to be a friend of my sister-in-law, Jen, and her husband, Matt. I knew him to be a friend of my brother, Chris, and my sister-in-law, Julie. I knew him to be a friend of my brother, Kevin's. I've heard his name mentioned multiple times. And I knew that he had a horrible couple tragedies in his family. And I knew that he stepped up and decided to take care of his niece and his nephew when they tragically lost their parents.
Yeah, and you beat him to a bloody
How would
pulp,
you
so
sort of
they had to
describe
lose
your
him too.
relationship with John O'Keefe at this time, January 28th?
Allegedly.
Although I didn't know him well, I considered him to be a friend, and our relationship was very, very good, cordial. And,
Okay.
I considered him to be somebody that I could hang out with and have a good time with.
Now,
But
you
not when
mentioned
you're drunk,
that Mr.
right?
O'Keefe walking around 11 o'clock to the waterfall. With the
Then why didn't
defendant,
you come out your
Clary
fucking
Brooks,
house?
referring to Karen Read, is that correct?
Yes.
That's my biggest thing. Is why
Yes, I
didn't you
do.
come out the house?
Where she's seated, or an article of clothing?
Sure, she's a female at the table, black top on, long sleeve.
I just has to reflect that hesitation. But
Yes.
now, with regard to Ms. Reed.
Oh my God.
have you
Okay,
met
yes.
Ms. Reed prior to that
Can
date of January 28th?
I believe
identify her. Like,
I had met
Jesus
her
Christ, how many
one
times are you
time
gonna
a
identify
week
her?
prior.
And do you recall any specifics about that meeting or how it is that you came to meet her about a week prior?
I do.
And if you could explain to the jury what those circumstances were.
Sure. I met her at the hillside. I believe she was there with John a week prior.
And as far as your interaction with her on that particular evening, anything significant stand out to you?
No.
Now, when they came in, and by day, I'm sorry, Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed came into the waterfall, where did they go in relation to where you were sort of situated at the high top?
So I don't remember them actually walking in the front door. I remember them being in my general area at some point. And they went towards the other side of the table where my sister-in-law, Jen, and my brother-in-law, Matt, were standing.
And at some point, did either or both of them make their way down towards your side of the table, your side of the table, excuse me, and what if any interactions did you have?
Yes, I remember having an interaction, or more than one interaction, with John. Came over to say hello, and we had some conversation. Not for too long, but yes.
Do you remember anything specific about that conversation or anything stand out to you?
No, I think we were talking mostly about work. I think he let me know that the sergeant, I guess, that worked in his unit was leaving or left or transferred. And, he was jokingly saying that I should try to get a job over it where he works.
And as far as the defendant, Ms. Reed, what if any conversation or interaction did you have?
I don't remember having any interaction with her whatsoever.
Now, as far as when Mr. O'Keefe came over, what if anything did you observe as far as what he was wearing, clothing, anything like that?
I don't really remember what he was wearing for clothing. I believe he had a baseball hat on. Other than that, I can't remember his clothing.
And specifically, do you recall anything as far as like a winter jacket or a big coat or anything like that?
I can't say. I wasn't really paying attention to what he was wearing. I don't know.
And as far as just his general features, as far as what you could observe, what if any sort of injuries or anything did you observe on his person at that time?
I observed no injuries at that time.
And over the course of the evening, you had a couple of interactions with Mr. O'Keefe, is that correct?
Yeah, I believe we talked a few times. Kind of hung out, stood next to each other for a while, like you normally would do at a bar restaurant.
And is the band playing while this is going on? Is that correct?
Yes, the band was there. I believe they took a break here and there, but they were there for the night.
Now, Mr. Allen, how would you describe sort of the general mood or demeanor of the group while you were at the waterfall?
In one word, it would be fun. Everybody was in a great mood. People were getting along. It was friends and family, and it just seemed like a great night.
And do you recall about what time things started to wind down or things started to sort of end for the evening?
I believe the band stopped playing probably, close to 12, and things started winding down, a little before 12.
And if you know, from the group that you just described at the high top table that you were part of, what was sort of the order in which people left the establishment, starting with first?
So I believe the first leave was myself, my wife Nicole, my daughter Caitlin, and Brian Higgins left at that time as well.
And had anybody left from your group prior to when, I'm sorry, so the bar starts to wind down around 12, correct?
Yes.
Prior to the bar winding down, had anybody from your group left before that?
I didn't remember or notice that. I'm not sure.
And so the first to sort of leave from your group when the bar's winding down is yourself, Mr. Higgins, your wife, and your daughter?
Yes.
And when you exit the establishment, where do you go?
Into the parking lot to my vehicle.
Let me take you back just for a moment back into the waterfall. During the course of the evening, what, if any, conversation was had by you or amongst the group that you observed as far as where to go next or what were you doing following the waterfall?
Okay, so there was some conversation relative to people going to my brother's sub shop, which is across the street, and he was maybe going to make some pizzas for people if they were hungry. So that was discussed.
And did that end up happening?
No, some people didn't want to go over there, and for whatever reason, it just didn't happen.
And beyond that, was there anything else that was discussed as far as where to go after the waterfall?
Yes.
What was that?
So it ended up being my son Brian's 23rd birthday. So at 12 o'clock, he would be 23. So there was some discussion about if anybody wanted to go by the house to kind of say happy birthday to him. And I know my wife Nicole mentioned it to Jen and Matt, and it was said, I believe, in the group where we were standing.
And so was that sort of an open invitation that was extended to pretty much anybody that was around the high top table?
Yeah, sure. Anybody that was there was welcome to come by if they wanted to.
And as far as you knew, as far as awareness of who was coming over to your house at 34th Fairview, who from the group were you aware of coming over?
I don't really remember the responses. I don't think I knew for sure if anybody was going to come, except Brian Higgins said he would come by.
And he had left around the same time as you?
Yes.
And had Brian Higgins been to your house before?
I believe he was at my house for a high school graduation party.
And high school graduation probably in the spring, is that correct?
It would have been the summer prior to that time. So my twins were graduating high school, and we had something at the house, and it was spring, summer of the year prior.
And around that time, so that would have been 2021, is that correct?
Yes.
So around that time, there were still sort of vestiges or whatever of the COVID pandemic, is that correct?
Yes, actually, that was just getting over, I think.
And so where was this graduation party at your house? Was that inside your house or outside your house or something?
It was actually out back. It was more of a cookout type thing.
And so as far as you can recall, prior to January 28, 2022, had Mr. Higgins been physically sort of inside your house or anything beyond using that?
Besides that graduation party, I don't believe he had ever been at my house. I'm sure he walked into the house, to use the bathroom or something that day, but I didn't really notice, whether he went in there or not.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, there's just a couple of very short clips that I'd like to publish with this witness in reference to what's been marked as Exhibit 53 from the waterfall. And Ms. Gilman, with reference to channel 3, if I can have the fourth video now. And Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to fast forward to 18 minutes and 50 seconds. Now, Mr. Albert, direct your attention up to the screen to your right here. Do you recognize what's up on screen?
Yes.
What do you recognize?
The waterfall.
And this is, at least according to the timestamp, about 11:57 p.m. on the 28th. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what's up there is that, to the best of your recollection, a fair and accurate portrayal of what the inside of the waterfall looked like, absent sort of the quality of it.
Yes.
And sir, I believe there should be a razor pointer on the desk before you. If you could press that button and point at the screen. What I'm going to ask you to do is, if you could draw the jury's attention to who, if anyone, within this sort of still frame of the video that you recognize, if any.
With with the time band across the top there, I can see some people around the table that we were standing, which would be this table area here. Tough for me to say from here who everybody is. I believe that's Brian Higgins there, but I'm not 100%.
Ms. Gilman, if you could play this, and what I'm going to ask you to ultimately play is up to the 19 minute and 58 seconds. Ms. Gilman, if you could pause it there. Now, Mr. Albert, from what you observed out there, as far as the door that you came in and came out of on that evening, do you see generally where that door is?
Yes,
And if you could direct the jury's attention to where on the video it is.
doors this way.
And from just prior to when this video went out, stopped at the 11:57 and 50-second mark, you see groups were making their way towards that front door. Is that correct?
Yes.
And from this vantage point, are you able to recognize any of the people in that group that made their way towards it?
Yes, I believe I saw my wife, my daughter here maybe, and then I think I'm over here. But again, it's a little grainy and I can't really see great from here. And I saw Brian Higgins, but I don't know if he's in here somewhere.
Thank you, Kevin. If you could just press play again for about 30 seconds. You could take that down, and then Ms. Gilman, if I could ask for one other video from channel 1, the second one down. If I could ask you to fast forward that to about 5 minutes and 10 seconds. And ultimately, I'm going to ask you to play it from 5 minutes and 10 seconds to 5 minutes and 50 seconds. If you could press play now.
No, get. Let's get on the thing. Come here.
Thank you, sir. Now, generally speaking, what was just played up on the screen, Mr. Elder, you recognize what that is?
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah, it looks like the exit of the waterfall, and we're kind of walking out.
The same group that was walking to the front door, now walking out the front door and into the parking lot.
Yes, and I believe there was somebody else there. I don't know if it was somebody from the band or looks like a different person out front there.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Gilman, you can take that. Now, Mr. Albert, when you get to the parking lot, you get in the vehicle and you drive to your house. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And specifically, you're the one driving. Is that correct?
Yes.
And who is in your car with you on the drive back?
My wife Nicole and my daughter Caitlin.
And about how far a drive is it from the waterfall to your house?
I would say five minutes.
And the weather, as far as when you walk out, get in the car, and then start driving, what, if anything, has changed about the weather from the time you came into the waterfall to the time you came out?
Yeah, so it started snowing a little bit more heavily. You can kind of see that on that second video. So the ground was beginning to be, coated, it looked like.
So coating on the ground, but as you were driving, could you still sort of see blacktop of the roadway?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, it
Now,
wasn't.
you get to your house
Heavy.
and,
Shut up.
What, if anything, happens?
It was
sort of as
barely
you're coming
starting
into
to snow,
your
you
driveway?
fucker.
It looks like that. It had looked like Brian had gotten there first, Brian Higgins, and he was backing out, so I could pull my car in.
And as far as the vehicle that Mr. Higgins was driving on that evening from the waterfall, was that the same vehicle that he had driven with you back from New York?
No.
And what kind of vehicle was the one he was driving back from New York? And what kind of vehicle was the one he was driving that?
So the one back from New York, he was driving a full-size pickup truck. I'm not sure what make or model, but it had a cab on the back, and I believe it's gray. And then that night later in the night at the waterfall, he had a Jeep Wrangler vehicle that I believe is white, but I'm not 100%.
So he had arrived at your house before you, is that correct?
Yes.
You said it looked like he had done something to the driveway?
He may have skimmed. Yeah, he had a plow on his truck, and I think he may have skimmed the plow of the driveway and then pulled out, and then we pulled in.
And as far as vehicles at your house, how many around this time of January 22, between yourself, your wife, kids, how many vehicles do you have?
I believe 3.
And what type of vehicles and who was sort of the primary driver with regard to those?
So I had we had a Ford Explorer, a Cadillac SUV. It's a smaller SUV that my wife Nicole drives, and the Ford Edge that I already spoke of, and I believe we had one more vehicle that one of my kids drove at that time. And I'm just trying to remember. It might have been an Escape, maybe a Ford Escape. Someone could have had that at Someone could have had that at school. So I don't remember if it was there that night or not.
So all the vehicles were essentially like SUV type vehicles.
Yes, we didn't own any sedans or any cars.
Now, as far as when you pull into the driveway, the house at 34 Fairview has a 2-car garage.
Yes.
And is the garage something that you or other members of your family would utilize as far as parking vehicles?
No. So unfortunately, we didn't use the garage a lot because we kind of used it for storage, and we had a lot of stuff out there. So we very seldom used it.
And if you recall, as you're pulling into the driveway, did you pull into the left side, the right side, or?
I believe I pulled in on the left side of the driveway.
And you mentioned that Mr. Higgins had sort of scooped with the plow like in the driveway and then parked on the street. Do you recall where in relation to your house or your driveway you parked?
So no, I don't remember where Brian Higgins parked. I remember him pulling out so I could pull in, And then I didn't really see where he parked.
And you then go into your house, is that correct?
Yes,
And are all of you, and by all of you, I mean yourself, your wife, your daughter, and Mr. Higgins also are coming in around the same time?
basically, yes.
So
Come
that's
into your
just
house,
weird.
how-
Okay,
how
hold
many
on.
doors, in
Hold
front
on.
of the
Hold
house?
on just a
So we have
second.
2 front doors.
Hold on just a second. Because, okay, Brian Higgins was parked in your parking lot, I mean, in your driveway. He had to move so you could park there. But wait a minute. If he didn't, see, that's why I think he left with you guys. Like, I think you drove him. He came in with you. You're trying to distance himself. His, how long you were with him that day type shit. That's just weird to me. He gets home before you and is in your driveway and then has to move out again. Like that don't make no sense.
And one would be sort of by some steps, is that correct?
There's actually steps on both doors, but one of them is, I guess, considered the front door with a large set of steps.
And it would be sort of brick steps, is that right?
Yes.
And that leads into a foyer area of the house?
Yes.
And the other door, where does that lead?
So the other door opens up right into the, we call it the family room, but right into the family room den area.
Do you recall specifically which door you utilized on that evening going into the house?
I believe I went in the door on the right, which goes into the den. Not really sure what other doors people used.
And when you came into the house, who, if anyone, was present beyond the people that you would come in with?
So my son Brian was home. He had 2 friends, I believe Julie and Sarah.
And these were people that you had known as friends of your son from prior occasions?
I didn't know Sarah. I had met Julie once or twice.
And as you were walking in, who, if anyone else beyond your son and his 2 friends?
And my nephew Colin.
That'd be Colin Albert, is that correct?
Yes, Chris and Julie's son Colin.
About how old was Colin Albert?
I believe he was just about 18, 17, 18. He's in high school.
He was still in high school at the time?
Yes.
And when you walk in, where was Colin in relation to your son and the 2 girls that he was with?
He was just kind of standing in the kitchen with Brian and the 2 girls. Brian and the 2 girls were at the kitchen table, and Colin was just kind of standing there.
And from the time that you arrived home, how long was Colin at your house?
No more than 5 minutes.
And where did he go?
He left. He just said he was getting picked up.
We said he was getting picked up, and a few minutes later, he left your house.
Yes, I went and used the bathroom. I came out and he was gone.
Now, at some point subsequent to that, who, if anyone else, arrived or showed up at your house?
We're getting stressed.
After Colin left the house?
Yes.
Nobody else arrived at the house.
Your sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, at some point, did they come by?
Yes, I thought you were referring to after they showed up.
So when my question is, do you know whether or not when Jennifer McCabe and Matthew McCabe arrived at your house, was Colin still there?
I don't know if he was still there or not. I believe he left before they came, but I'm not 100%.
So you come home and you go to use the restroom, is that correct?
Yes.
And when you go to use the restroom, Colin's there, correct?
Yes.
And the McCabe's are not?
They are not.
When you come back from the restroom, Colin's not there?
Yes, Colin was gone.
And the McCabe's are there?
No, I don't believe they had arrived yet.
So they arrived sometime after Colin had left?
Yes.
And over the course of that evening of the 28th into the early morning of the 29th, did anybody else come into your house, or did anybody else come into your house at any time?
No.
Now, in addition to yourself, your wife, and your son, did you have any pets at that time?
Yeah, yes, we did.
And what kind of pets did you have?
We had a dog.
And what kind of dog was that?
So it was a German Shepherd mix.
And what was the name of the dog?
Chloe.
And how long had you and your family had the dog?
We had Chloe for approximately, at that time, maybe 6 or 7 years.
Do you recall how you got the dog, or where you got the dog from?
The dog was from a shelter in Dallas, Texas, actually.
So essentially a rescue dog, is that correct?
Yes, rescue dog.
And when you got home after you went to the bathroom, what, if anything, did you do with reference to the dog?
At some point, I went upstairs to grab the dog and let her out back to use the bathroom.
And so when you would take the dog out, and when anybody would take the dog out to use the bathroom, how would that be accomplished? What I'm asking you is, would the dog be on a leash, or would it be let out in the yard? Or...
No, so the backyard's fenced in, so I would open up the back door and she can go out, use the bathroom, and come back inside.
So the entirety of your backyard, that's a fenced-in backyard, is that correct?
Yes.
And beyond that fence, as far as the bunny, what sort of abuts the back of your property?
So behind the back fence, there's a railroad track. I believe it's a commuter rail that's behind the fence.
And is there any sort of opening or way to open the back of that fence to get in sort of any wooded area between your house and the track?
Yes, there's a gate back there.
And the gate, as far as when you let the dog out in the back that night, did you stay with the dog while the dog was outside?
I stayed at the doorway, and the dog went to the bathroom and then ran right back in.
So about how long was the dog outside?
She was out back for maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
Went outside, went to the bathroom, came back in?
Yes.
And when the dog came back inside the house, where did the dog go?
So the dog kind of walked around in the kitchen for a few minutes, and then I took her upstairs.
When you took her upstairs, where upstairs did you take her?
So the dog likes to sleep in our room, mine and my wife's room. So a lot of times she would go up there on her own. Sometimes I would walk her up, and I walk her up to our bedroom.
And at any point in time for the remainder of that evening or the early morning, did the dog go outside at all?
No.
And you mentioned that there are train tracks that run sort of close to your property. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is that just the commuter rail, or does the Acela go by, or anything else?
I believe there is, in addition to the commuter rail, there's other trains that you.
How often, sort of on a daily basis, do trains go by your house on Fairview Road?
So it depends, I guess, schedule-wise, if it's the middle of the week or if it's the weekend. But, on any given day, they can go by 5 or 6 times, morning, more towards the rush hour times, morning, at night, and then sometimes at night and sometimes during the day. So really all day and night.
And when the trains go by, about how loud is that as far as from your house?
So it's loud, although having lived there for a period of time, I feel like at least I'm kind of immune to the sound. I don't really hear it as much anymore.
So something essentially based on how long you've lived there, you really don't hear it anymore?
Not really, no.
Now, you let the dog out, bring the dog back upstairs, and then where did you go?
So after I brought the dog up, I just came back down and hung out with everybody else.
And where within your house was everybody else sort of situated?
So everybody was in the kitchen, and then we have a connecting dining room, but it's opened. It's only, a difference of 5 feet. And then we have the family room den that's adjacent to the kitchen. But they're all close proximity.
So the kitchen and the dining room are sort of the same room, is that correct?
Yes.
And as far as what if anything is between the kitchen and dining room and the living room that you were talking about?
So there's a wall, but there's a doorway. So there's really no barrier to go from the kitchen dining room into the family room.
So if somebody's standing in the family room and somebody's standing in the kitchen dining area, they can sort of see each other?
Yes.
Now, in the kitchen area where everybody was, or in the kitchen dining room area, do you recall sort of where people were and what they were doing around that time?
Yeah, I think people were just sitting around, having drinks. Someone had a speaker and they were listening to music and just talking and hanging out.
And as far as the sort of group and sort of the overall mood or demeanor of the group back at the house, how would you describe that?
Pleasant, fun. Everybody was having a good time. We were wishing Brian a happy birthday and everything was going great.
And at any point in time, while this was all going on, did you, other than your situation with the dog, was there any point in time where you were not with the group in the kitchen dining area?
No, I was there basically for the whole night, except I think at one point I may have shown Brian Higgins some photos that were in my son's room that were upstairs.
What kind of photos were you talking?
So my son Jack, who's one of the twins, was in the Marines or is in the Marines, and we had put some plaques and some stuff in his room upstairs. And Brian Higgins was prior military, as am I, and I thought he would want to see the photos, so I had him look at them.
And that period of time that you were outside of the kitchen dining room area looking at the photos with Mr. Higgins, about how long a period of time are you talking?
Very, very quickly, 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes.
Now, at some point over the course of that morning, things started to sort of wind down at your home. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And about what time was that things started to wind down, people started to leave?
I think Brian left at around 1:30. I believe he was the first to leave. And then others left after that.
When you say others left after that, after Mr. Higgins left your house, where did you go?
So after Brian left, I had gone upstairs and hung out and watched TV up in my bedroom.
You had a long day that day, is that fair to say?
Yes, I had the funeral in New York that morning. We had the long drive back, and we had been out, and now we're hanging out at my house, and it had been a long day, yes.
And so at any point in time, after you went upstairs after Mr. Higgins left, did you come back downstairs at all?
Yes, I think I popped back down at one point just to see kind of how long people were going to be there, and then went back up.
When you popped back down, how many people were still there?
I think Jen and Matt was still there, and the two, Brian's two friends were still there, and my daughter Caitlin.
Now, as far as beyond Mr. Higgins when he left, was there any other occasion that you can recall where somebody from your house went outside and then came back?
Yes.
Who was that?
So while we were hanging out, I believe the girl Julie Nagel's brother came to the house. I never saw him, but I could hear them saying that he was out front. And I think Julie Nagel had walked outside to talk to him.
And at some point after she walked outside, she came back inside, is that correct?
Yes.
And about how long a period of time, if you know, was she outside?
I didn't really pay attention to how long it was. I don't think it was that long.
And as far as the outside of your house, after you had let Chloe out and back in, what, if any, observations did you make outside of your house? Did you look out? Did you see anything outside of the house?
Just that we have windows in the back of the kitchen area. You could just see that it was snowing.
Is that sort of like a bay window in the kitchen?
Yes, it's a large bay window in the kitchen.
And when you look out the bay window in the kitchen, what part of your property does that face?
So it's the backyard. You can see the backyard. The bulkhead is right under that bay window, and you pretty much have a view of the whole backyard if it's in the daytime. But it was obviously a little dark.
So can you see the front of the house at any part of the front of the house when you're looking out the bay window?
No.
So at any point in time over the course of the evening, did you look out front to see anything out in front of the house?
No.
So at any point in time over the course of the evening, did you hear anything from front of the house, back of the house, anywhere around the house that drew your attention outside?
No.
Now, at any point in time during the evening, did you know or did you become aware of either John O'Keefe or the defendant Karen Read coming over to your house?
No.
And at no point in time over the course of that evening or the early morning there, did John O'Keefe or Karen Read physically come into your house?
John O'Keefe and Karen Read never entered my house.
Karen Read never
So you
entered
go up
the
to bed,
house, that's for
the group
sure.
is still sort of downstairs, is that correct?
Yes.
She left John.
And at some point, your wife Nicole, you share a bedroom with, did she come upstairs?
Yes.
And do you know about what time that was?
It was probably 2-ish. Not exactly sure, but around 2 or 2 o'clock.
And the doors to your house, is, as far as the front doors and back doors, is that, what is sort of the situation with regard to locking the doors before everybody goes to bed?
Can you rephrase that?
With, when you lived at 34 Fairview Road, there were a number of doors to the house, including 2 doors in the front, correct?
Yes.
And how was that, let me ask you this, would it be unusual for the front doors of your house to remain unlocked overnight?
No.
Is that something
Sure,
that
making
happened
a
on
lot of
occasion where
movements
people
with
were
your
supposed to lock
mouth
doors?
and shit, dude.
Yes, from time to time, the doors, people would just forget to lock them, or we just didn't lock them.
And so your wife comes up to your bedroom about 2 a.m. or so. As far as you knew, was everybody else had left the house at that point?
Yes.
And you're up for a period of time with your wife, is that correct?
Yes.
And over the course of that time, so sort of following 2 o'clock in the morning, do you recall any sort of phone call or phone conversation with Mr. Higgins or anybody else?
No.
And at some point you fall asleep, do you recall about when that was?
I don't. But it was obviously after 2 because that's when she came upstairs. We watched TV and kind of hung out together for a while, and then went to sleep.
And the dog, Chloe, was she up in the room where you had brought her up before?
Yes.
She was there overnight, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, turning your attention to later on that morning or beginning of that morning, daytime morning of January 29th. Obviously, at some point you wake up, correct?
Yes.
And what is it that wakes you up on that morning?
I was awoken that morning to my sister-in-law, Jen, had burst into my room.
And do you know about what time that was?
It was early in the morning, between 6 and 6:30, I would say.
And fair to say that's not a normal occurrence?
No.
It's
And when
so
she
weird
burst
that
into,
all of their
your
stories
room,
match.
Can you describe her demeanor or sort of how she appeared when she first came?
She was very upset, almost hysterical.
And what, if anything, did she say when she came in?
She said something to the effect, John is dead.
Next question, please, sustain.
Did you know who she was referring to when she initially comes into you?
I initially did not.
And at some point during the course of that conversation, does Ms. McCabe make reference to going downstairs?
Yes.
And prior to that, not the content of the conversation, but as far as the length of the conversation, about how long was that length of the conversation that occurred in your bedroom between yourself, Ms. McCabe, and your wife?
Probably a minute.
And the demeanor that you described as far as
She was in
Ms.
your
McCabe is
house
concerned,
longer
almost
than
hysterical. Was
that
that
before
in
those
throughout
lights came
that
on.
initial conversation?
Yes. She was very upset.
And who, if anyone, did she indicate was downstairs, or why did you go downstairs?
She said that the police.
This I'm going to allow with that foundation.
Correct.
She said that the police were downstairs.
And so you went downstairs to talk to them?
Yes.
And when you go downstairs, what do you see when you get to sort of the bottom of the stairs?
I saw a Canton police officer downstairs.
So inside your house at that point?
Yes.
And the door to your house, was it still open or shut or something?
I don't remember.
And the Canton police officer that's inside your home, did you recognize him?
Yes.
And who did you recognize him?
Last name Lank. So Officer Lank.
Was he someone that you were familiar with?
I knew who he was. Yes.
Did you socialize or friends or anything like that?
I didn't socialize with him. I knew him to be a Canton police officer. I had met him, multiple times, and I knew him to know my brother Chris.
And so knew him, essentially what I'm asking, knew him in a professional capacity, personal capacity, or a little bit of both?
I would say more of a professional capacity, and I knew of him, but did not hang out with him socially.
And initially, when you first see Officer Langley by himself, or who, if any, other officers are with?
I believe initially he was by himself.
Did another officer join yourself and Officer Langley at some point?
Yes, I believe another officer came into the house.
You know that officer?
I don't.
And as far as them coming into your house, they were welcome in your house? You didn't say get out or close the door or anything like that?
No, of course they were welcome in my house.
And where did you go with the officer, sort of in your house? Where did you spoke with the officer, I'm presuming?
Yes, we spoke in the kitchen area.
And when you're speaking with the officer in the kitchen area, who is there?
So my wife Nicole, her sister Jen, and I believe Jen's husband Matt arrived almost the same time that I came downstairs, maybe a minute after.
And how long a period of time was this conversation that occurred in the kitchen of your house?
I don't remember the exact time. I wouldn't want to guess. I don't remember. 10, 15, 20 minutes maybe initially.
And when you say initially, was there a subsequent conversation that occurred after that?
Yes. The Officer Lank returned to the house sometime after that.
You okay,
And when he
Taz?
returned sometime after that, was he alone, or was there another officer?
I believe that time he was with Lieutenant Gallagher, perhaps.
And were you familiar with Lieutenant Gallagher prior to that one?
I knew who Lieutenant Gallagher was on a professional level. I had not hung out with him on a social level.
And again, they were welcomed into your home and you spoke with them, is that correct?
Yes, the second time they were there, they were invited back to the house via phone call.
And that second conversation within your house, where did that?
Same area, family room, kitchen area.
And if you know about how long a period of conversation was that second come back to the house?
That may have been longer, maybe a half hour.
Now, going back to sort of that initial conversation, as far as, so it's yourself, it's Mr. and Mrs. McCabe, your wife, and then the police, is that correct?
Myself, my wife Nicole, my sister-in-law Jen, her husband Matt had arrived, and the police, yes.
And in between that first speaking with the police and the second time that the police came back to your house, who, if anyone, did you call or notify in regard to the situation that was going on in front of you?
I called Brian Higgins
Why did you call Brian?
because I think it was important for him to know what was going on and that what had happened.
And as far as you knew with reference to Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, what, if any, relationship, friendship, anything were you aware of between Mr. Higgins and either Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed?
I was not aware too much about a relationship with Brian and either person. Brian had mentioned maybe even that night that he was friendly and knew John. I knew of no relationship between Brian and the defendant.
And following your conversation with Mr. Higgins, who, if anyone else, came over your house?
So Brian Higgins eventually came over to my house, and my sister-in-law Julie also arrived at my house.
Bet you did.
And do you know why your sister-in-law Julie came by your house?
Yes.
And why?
So she has a routine that when it's someone's birthday, she likes to come by and bring like coffee and donuts. So it was Brian's birthday that night. So my sister-in-law Julie was coming by to drop off some donuts and coffee, I think.
And where was Julie when you first saw her that morning?
She was out front in the driveway.
And what, if anything, did you ask her to do when you saw her out in the driveway?
I asked her to come inside.
And when she came inside, is that when you informed her of what had happened?
Yes. I don't know if it was necessarily me that informed her, but people that were there were explaining to her what happened. It was a very, very chaotic, unbelievably chaotic morning.
And as far as when that was described to your sister-in-law Julie, how would you describe sort of her demeanor or her reaction to the news regarding Mr. O'Keefe?
Shock. That's how I would describe everybody's reaction that morning, was utter shock. She was
Shock and
upset
horror.
and looked very, very in shock.
And so the second time that the Canton police officers come back to your home, who was there at that point?
I know I was there for sure. My wife Nicole, Jen, her husband Matt, Brian Higgins may have been there at that time, and I'm not sure about Julie. Julie at one point left the house, and I think she came back later in the morning. But so I'm not sure if she was there.
And at some point when your sister-in-law Julie came back to your house, who, if anyone, came to your house with her?
Her husband, my brother Chris, who's her husband.
Was this before or after the second time that the police had been in?
I believe they came back after the second time, but I'm not 100% sure. The first time that Julie came with the coffee, the police were not there.
Now, when you first sort of get up, you come downstairs, and the police they're basically in your doorway. Is that correct?
Yes.
Could you see outside as far as what was going on outside at that time?
Not from downstairs, but I had looked out the window after Jen had come up into my room and explained what had happened, and before I went downstairs.
When you looked out your window from your bedroom, what did you see?
I could see at least one police vehicle. I could see that there was something going on out front, and that was about it. And I just went straight downstairs.
At that time that you looked out your window, did you see either an ambulance or a fire truck out there?
I don't remember if I saw an ambulance. There were emergency vehicles out there, but I can't remember exactly which types.
And at any point in time, at that time or subsequent throughout the course of the day, did you go out to that area of your yard where you saw the cruisers?
The licking of the lips is just weird to me.
No.
And when?
I didn't see that there was a reason to go out to that area. The police had already been in my house. They had already talked to us about what was going on. It was a snowstorm at that point. They were trying to conduct an investigation, and I didn't want to interfere with it or have anything to do with it.
Now, as far as what you're learning, sort of when Jennifer McCabe first comes sort of verging in into your bedroom at 6 to 6:30 in the morning, At any point around there, were you made aware of where John O'Keefe was at that point?
That's just weird to me.
Yes,
Quit playing with your
I
mustache.
was made aware that he was taken to the hospital.
By the time that you're awoken by Mrs. McCabe, John O'Keefe is, to your knowledge, not outside.
To my knowledge, I believe he was on the way to the hospital.
Now, later on in the course of that day, at some point did you
Why you keep
have
looking
occasion to speak
down
with
and
Trooper
up,
from
down and up,
Yes.
down and up?
And if you recall, who is it that you spoke with?
So I spoke with Trooper, last name Proctor, and then another trooper, and I don't know the last name, first name, Yuri.
Would it be Sergeant Buchanan?
It could be.
And had you met either of those troopers prior to that day?
I had never met Trooper Proctor. I had met Trooper, I forget, what is the last name?
You met Trooper Yuri?
Yuri. I had met him once or twice before.
Was that in a professional capacity?
Yes.
And where did you speak with him on that day?
At my sister-in-law Jen's house.
And if you recall, about what time of day was it that you spoke with him?
It was late morning, early afternoon, the day of the incident. So I don't know the exact time. Before noon, I think.
And why was it that later on that day that you were over your sister-in-law Jennifer McCabe?
When my sister-in-law Jen and her husband Matt were leaving my house, my sister-in-law was distraught. I wanted to be comforting to them and be there for them if they needed anything, and I drove to their house.
And this is, and speaking of your sister-in-law Jennifer, this is someone you've known since she was how old?
7 years old. She's like a little sister to me.
And at the point that you're going over the house, did you know that there were going to be troopers from the state police over at the house?
Yes.
And fair to say they asked to talk to you, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you know with anyone else they spoke to at your sister-in-law's house that day?
I believe they spoke with Jen, my sister-in-law Jen, and then her husband Matt, and then myself.
And so was that done sort of in a group setting, or was it separate or something?
Separate.
And so they spoke to you in one area of the house while Jennifer and Matthew McCabe were in another area of the house, and vice versa for you?
Yes, I spoke with them at the dining room table, and Jen and Matt were not present. I believe they may have been upstairs or somewhere else in the house.
And if you know, where were you when the troopers were talking to either Jennifer McCabe or Matthew?
So I was upstairs when they were being spoken to.
I may have one moment, Joe.
Yes.
You still had interviews together.
Yeah, Rocha.
Yes.
I'm going to show you a series of 8 photographs that you're going to look up.
Sure.
So what I've just presented you with and previously marked as exhibits 58 through 65, and generally speaking, you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
Yes.
And we recognize it.
So the photos appear to be the front yard in front of my old house at 34 Fairview Road.
And from those photographs, they appear to be a fair and accurate trail of what your house and your yard looked like around that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, with court's permission, I would ask to publish those for the jury to discuss with the witness briefly.
Hey, you can put them up, Ms. Gilman.
Ms. Gilman, if you could start with exhibit 58. Mr. Albert, sir, there should be on the desk in front of you a laser pointer. Actually, we already.
I have that, yes.
So what's up on the screen currently? Do you recognize, is that what's depicted in exhibit 58?
Let's see. I have them out of order here. Just give me 1 second. So yes, this looks like the photo exhibit 58 that you handed me.
And this is a photograph of your house, or if I'm standing on the street to the left side of the property, correct?
Yes.
And on this sort of left side of your property, let me ask you this first. As far as between the roadway of Fairview Road and your front lawn, is there anything there as far as a sidewalk or anything like that?
No, there's no sidewalk. So the grass area goes right to the curb, and then there's the street.
And the curb that's in between the grass and the roadway, is that like a straight curb, straight edge curb, granite curbing, or like rounded curbing? How would you describe it?
I would just describe it as a regular curbing. It's not granite. It's the color is black, so it seems like a tar curbing.
And in this area of the left side of your property, what if anything of note is sort of in that area of the property?
So in that area of the property, first of all, that's basically the property line from the neighbor's house. If you're staring at my house from the front, the neighbor to the left, that's the property line area. But there's a fire hydrant there. There is a flagpole with the American flag and the Marine Corps flag. And there is we call it like an electrical box, but I'm not sure what the purpose of it is.
And so for all the years that you've lived there, either as a child or as an adult, you really don't know what that electrical box does or what it is?
Yes, I don't know if it's operable. Sometimes the door is open. If it's windy, the door of the box blows open, and sometimes it's closed, and we don't really have much to do with it.
And the general area where, when you looked out the window of your bedroom on the morning of the 29th, as far as where you saw the police vehicles or the cruisers, do you see that in this photograph?
Yes, that's the same general area.
The same general area as you were describing with the fire hydrant, flagpole, things like that.
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next exhibit 59. And again, so what's up on screen? Is that what you have for you?
What was it, 59? Yes.
And from this photograph, sir, this is again a picture of your residence around the time of January 29th, correct?
Yes.
Fair to say this is taken after some of the snow has sort of melted from the snow before?
Yes, it appears that there's less snow in the front there.
So less snow than what you saw when you looked out the window or at some later point on the 29th?
Yes.
And from this photograph, if you could just direct the jury's attention to the driveway and garages and sort of where is that located on?
So my driveway was this area right here, and that's the garage doors.
And from within this photograph as well, you mentioned that there were sort of two doors to the front of your house, one that leads into a foyer area and the other leads into a living room of some kind. If you could direct the jury's attention to where each of those doors would be on the house.
Sure. So the door right here we consider it the front door, and that goes into a foyer area. And then, not from this photo, you can't really see it, but there's a door in this, I guess, breezeway area, and that opens up into the family room.
And one last thing from this photograph, sir, if the window that you were looking out, do you see that window in this photograph as well, and can you draw the jury's attention?
Yes, I believe it would be this one right here, in the corner.
Okay, so Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next exhibit number 60.
You say 60?
60. And so what's up on screen, do you recognize that as what you have before you as exhibit 60?
Yes.
And from this photograph, as far as the roadway and sort of width of the road from the curve to the double yellow line there, is that generally what it was on January 29th? That's what the roadway looked like?
The morning of the 29th?
Well, the morning of the 29th was snow, correct?
Right. So the roadway, I believe, would have had some snow on it.
So what I'm asking is, when you came home that evening or early morning of the 29th, is that essentially what the roadway looked like, absent whatever the snow was covered?
Yes.
The next photograph, Ms. Gilman. And again, now looking at what is exhibit 61, is that correct, sir?
1 second. Yes.
This is essentially a closer up image of the area of the fire hydrant, electrical box, and the flagpole that we were talking about before.
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next photograph. And again, what's up on the screen, this would be, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Is this 62?
62. It appears to be, yes, 62.
So you were mentioning earlier in your testimony that the area where you saw the police cruisers when you looked out the window in the morning of the 29th was near sort of where your property abuts the neighboring property, correct?
Yes.
And do you happen to know what number that next door neighbor's house is? Up or down from 34?
I honestly don't. I don't know what number that is.
And do you see sort of the property line in between your house and the next door neighbor's house?
Yes, I believe that row of trees is the property line.
So the row of evergreen trees there is sort of where it delineates between your property and the next door neighbor?
Yes, they appear to be in line from almost the street to the white fence.
And that white fence sort of in the back right of that photograph, is that the fence that you were talking about before that encloses your backyard?
Yes.
And next photograph is coming, number 63. Again, this is just another photograph of for that area of your yard, is that correct?
1 second. Sorry. Yes.
Now, with reference to this area of the yard at your house when you were living there at 34 Fairview Road, is that an area of the yard that would be of particular use, or did you go in that area of the yard all that much?
No, we didn't really use that area too often. There's a large wood chip bed. You can't see it because of the snow, but it kind of covers that area. So we don't really go over there that often.
And now, so with reference to this area of the yard, was there any sort of overhead, like ambient lighting, street lights, anything like that in that area?
No, so that's a very dark part of the yard. There's no street light there at all.
And the next photograph, Ms. Gilman, Mr. Albert, I believe this would be number 64, is that correct?
Yes.
And with reference to this, can you describe to the jury what are we looking at in this particular photograph?
So that's the front right door, I guess you could say, to the house. And again, you can't see the door, but it's inside that breezeway area to the left.
If you could just use the laser, am I correct?
Oh, yeah. So the door would be right in here.
And from the driveway leading up to that front door area you were talking about with the foyer once you get in, what if anything is sort of leading you up to the steps there?
To the other door,
To the other, the front.
there's a brick walkway.
So brick walkway leading up the brick steps into the foyer area of your house.
Yes.
And the last in this set, Ms. Gilman, Mr. Albert, this would be number 65. Do you recognize what's depicted in this photograph, sir?
Yes.
And what do you recognize?
So that's the picture of the ground in front of the fire hydrant, which is to the left front of my yard.
You can take that down. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Albert, with the days that sort of followed from January 29th, as far as your home was concerned, what, if any, sort of police presence did you observe or notice sort of in that area in the front yard of your home?
So over the course of the next couple of days, there were emergency vehicles and police personnel that day and days following in front of the house.
So later on in the afternoon of the 29th and continuing on for days after, is that correct?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you observe as far as the weather was concerned between the date of the 29th and the days that the police presence was outside of your home?
I believe it rained a few times during that time.
And as far as the snow that had been piled up on your front lawn, what, if anything, was occurring with the snow as the days went on following the 29th?
I believe so. Some of the snow was shoveled out, I believe, during the crime scene, and then some of the snow was just dissipating due to the fact that it was melting and it had rained a bunch of days.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to your house, and obviously at some point you moved from the house on Fairview and Canton to North, correct?
Yes.
And when was that sort of first discussed between you and your wife as far as selling the house?
That was discussed in October, November of, it would have been 2021.
What was it that sort of precipitated that discussion as far as selling the house?
Around that time, it was post-COVID. The housing market seemed really good. And my brother, Chris, had sold his house, was in the process, and ultimately sold his house around that time. He got a great deal on it. I had known some other people that had sold around that time. And it was a little early for us because our children weren't all necessarily gone yet, but it was close, and we thought we could get a good deal for the house. So that's when we started exploring it.
And who, if anyone, did your brother Christopher put you in touch with?
So he put me in touch with a realtor that ultimately sold his house.
And at some point you sold the house?
I did.
And when was it?
So we didn't end up selling until
So weird that you guys all moved out.
April of 2023.
And as far as prior to selling the house, what, if any, did the sale of your house have anything to do with what occurred there on January 29, 2022?
Absolutely not.
That's a lie. When you say absolutely not, that's a lie.
Yes.
I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. Can I see counsel inside for just a second, please?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday will be full days. Tuesdays and Thursday next week will be half days. The week I wanted to address with you, where we were already going to be off the 29th and 31st of that week. There's been a request, and it makes sense. We will now take the 29th, 30th, and 31st off, rather than have you folks come in. So you'll get 3 full days, sort of maybe in the middle of this trial, to be able to just kind of regroup. And I figured everybody would welcome those days, but I am going to ask you to give us a full day on the 28th. So think about that this weekend. So the Tuesday will be a full day, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you'll be down. Okay. June 7th, we're off. We will end June 6th at noon instead of 1 o'clock. Okay. All right. So I do have to give you those 3 cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see here and read anything about this case, please disregard it. I always like to tell jurors, just leave everything here. Your notebooks, literally, figuratively, just leave it here. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday morning.
Rest of the jury.
Here we go. Thank you.
In session. Any other evidentiary issues I should be prepared to spend some time on this weekend?
Not from the Commonwealth, no.
I heard you say we can wait on that, but I'd like to know, is there anything that I should be taking a look at?
No, I wasn't. I was talking about something different. I think with regard to Brian, Albert, there's really nothing other than I wanted to talk to my co-counsel over the weekend to get the court to potentially revisit the ruling that you just made, which whether you do or you don't, Your Honor, I think you've heard, we can hear more potential. But with regard to Caitlin Albert, Your Honor, there is the issue of the photos between her and Katie McLaughlin. I just want to flag that for the court. I think we've addressed that already, and I think the court had said we'd take them on a photo-by-photo basis.
No, what I said is you need to approach. So before she testifies, let me know where we stand.
Will do.
Okay, or before your cross-examination.
Will do.
All right. Do we expect to hear from her next week?
Yes.
Okay.
I think probably Monday.
Probably Monday.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thank
No,
you.
Your Honor. Thank you.
Alrighty, it is over, my friends. It is over, my friends. Let me see. Whoa. Dummy. Okay, I'm all set up for tomorrow. Alrighty, I will see you guys tomorrow.
Okay, I misunderstood your question.
Where we finish the homeowner's testimony, his daughter. Then we also have who else? Jen McCabe and her husband. Oh yay! That is a great testimony. I'm telling you what. And then we have Colin Albert. And Allie McCabe because she went and picked up Colin Albert. All right. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching with me. I appreciate you. I'm on the road to 1K, so please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm gonna be monetized by the end of the year. I got my mindset to it. Anyways, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And like I end this every day, make sure you let the ones that you love and care about know that you love and care about them, because tomorrow is not promised. And watch your circle, the circle of trust, baby, because this could be anybody. All right, stay blessed. Bye.
Put your eyes on me, like the spotlight. Waking up and showing love, then got my grind right. Ain't ever since day one, the love been on side. And since you got my back, I got your back for life. Yeah, pretty I see. Know just what it is, I got it on me. And you hold me down, you like my homie. Just know I got you down, just what it gon' be. Definition of business, definition of friendship, definition of rider, definition relentless. She's a strong woman, she's a sweet lady, she's a great mother, she prank it, yeah. I made that girl on YouTube, she never dims my light or put me in her dark mood. And I thank you, you appreciate, you're my favorite girl on YouTube. And I can't fake it, you still got faith in me, make me feel like big, DJ Khaled voice, pretty idea. You still got faith in me, make me feel like big, DJ Khaled voice, pretty idea. Met a little shawty on this show called BGP, you know what I'm talking about? Shit, we been cool ever since, my nigga, you know what I'm talking about? Put your eyes on me, yeah. Like the spotlight. Recognize me showing love, done got my grind right. Ain't never since day one the love ain't on sight. And since you got my back, I got your back for life. Yeah, pretty eyes, know just what it